questions. We're gonna go approve the meeting minutes from 3/5/25. We had some questions on that. About the costs that were brought up.
Oh, I did. I don't know if it's really I think it was just based on a public speaker that had some numbers that were a little lower than I thought. But yes, I don't have it from me, Carl, but I don't know those minutes. And I was concerned about some of them. What we, based on previous reports, what we said we were able to do with dollar amounts. I think I might have even mentioned something to Ben about that, but I didn't research that one. But yes, thank you for. I don't really think it's a big concern. I will address that again.
Okay.
You want a
Thank you.
motion to accept them then, Carl?
Is there any questions? Yes, on minutes, right? If not, I'll vote to
I'll make that motion.
second.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Now that, just to be clear, that was for the 25th. 27th. And now we're doing the 6th, right? We have the other ones that we just handed out.
Yep.
Yes.
Did we make a motion? We didn't even make a motion to accept the agenda, so I'll say as amended.
There is no motion to accept the agenda. It's a special meeting. We can't amend
Oh, yeah,
the agenda.
You're right.
But I'm just saying that for whatever reason, the February 27th meeting minutes aren't on this agenda to approve, only the March 6th
Right.
meeting minutes. So technically, we should save the
Just
February
wait.
27th and approve them next week. Let's make a note to put them on the agenda.
Okay, yes.
The ones that were approved were March 6th, right?
Thank you.
We're all set on that, right? We got a second on that? You know, everyone's in favor, we approved it. Yep. Okay. Public comment? Anybody on there? Discussion, sightline, priors report. What do we got? Browns. Okay.
Yep.
We'll talk about Brownstone tonight. Just went on a tour and talk and maybe Mike and Bryce can sell and stuff. Need it? Everybody's feeling on this yet. They go through this one.
Yeah, the list. And I
Yeah.
think Bob is gonna be through now.
Just got stuff.
Anybody need a copy?
You have extra paper copies? I mean, I guess I don't mind having a paper copy.
Those
Thank
are,
you.
those aren't legal optics. That's just straight.
Gotcha. Thank
Tell you
you.
what, I'll take
You
another
want-
one now that you,
Then do you want the one that has the red?
ooh, I would love to.
Yeah, I did a
Sorry.
few of them. No, that's good. You can,
No, because I can share with Jen.
Yeah.
I'll come around. I'll come.
she can grab hers.
Small though.
That's all right.
It's little.
Wow.
I know.
No wonder
They know
you
what
did
I.
it. It's- Would make me feel old. I can see red,
I can see red,
but it'll be up there, so that'll come.
but there you go.
We should have a minimum font size requirement from around out.
Well, Bob sent it. We got it this afternoon in our email too, so you could pull it up on the phone and zoom in if you need,
Oh,
which is what I'm doing.
I forgot about the phone. I could do that to Ben.
Oh,
Yeah,
It just doesn't have the red.
I sense it's a Chris.
Chris
Yeah.
did an excellent job. making
I didn't
those-
print anything up. I planned on my God.
Yeah, I figured it would be late. I said, well, if anybody's gonna print, I'll send it over.
This is nice, Chris, thank
That's crazy. So I don't know.
Too big.
We wait for Carl. I don't know. I guess it's up to the committee. I mean, I wasn't here Thursday, so I don't know if there's some leftover questions on. I did,
There were
I-
some questions.
yeah.
Do you want to field those now or do you want to do that later?
I could do that now.
Yeah,
Sure.
okay.
Like to complete that task over there.
I did make notes of the questions.
Didn't make some
I can
changes.
remember what my notes were. All right, so on the middle school list, under HVAC, there was a fume hood and exhaust fans both listed. And there were questions from the committee about whether those items are separate from the rest of the kitchen items were listed under the high school. And so folks were curious whether those were additional fume hood and exhaust fans or whether those are potentially duplicate items from the high school.
No, so a fume hood is for the laboratories. Yeah. And the exhaust fans are separate. So fume hoods are for chemical.
Science.
Those were not kitchen related at all.
Well, if sixth grade is going up to the middle school, are we using those science labs in their capability as fifth graders? In the current configuration?
So the
Like,
science
would we-
labs will be occupied and a few which will be used if they, in other words, there might be a mix into those labs.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, I think they stay.
Okay,
I mean, if they stay for eighth grade usage or seventh grade usage, sixth grade might occupy those spaces, but not do that technology. I think the hoods will still be used for
okay.
that group of grades.
So I think
Unless we
that
realize-
confusion arose because there was a note next to the exhaust fans that said something related to kitchen exhaust. I think
So-
maybe that's why folks were
I
confused.
think something talking about maybe the wood shop and stuff too.
Yeah, there were no exams, the exhaust fans for the wood shop remained the same, there's really filters in there, so difficult, again, the way this was laid out.
Oh, we're-
Science
we're-
report was
I'm
difficult.
sorry.
So they kind of grouped a lot of stuff in, so I did my best to figure out over what's on these roofs here is over 75 exhaust.
Gotcha.
And they could be hooked into multiple areas. Bathrooms, couple classrooms, a laboratory and stuff. So really our exhaust fans need motors. Those are the things that we would be replacing. Some of the exhaust fans we may not need. We might remove those when we do roofs because we don't have those, need that capacity in those areas. So you kind of come up with kind of an average. Like I did, if you were to go through that spreadsheet and we come up to all those classroom renovations, right? I just picked 50% and I picked a number that made it to 50% and I read all those areas. I made them red and I said, there's my 250,000 and I'm done. I left the rest not included. To kind of get to a number that I thought that we need to do some renovations.
Mhm.
I reduced it by 50%. Some I eliminated. You'll see estimates in there. What I tried to do is anywhere that I said I have a new estimate or a new quote, I wanted to make sure you knew that because when you come down to my number, whatever that is in the millions, there's a certain percentage of that number that still needs escalation because I didn't change these numbers. I only changed the numbers that I had a good fixed cost. And I put little asterisks after those. And then that's why if you go to the far right of this document and if you went down to the end of Brownstone per se, just because it's only a few pages, just scroll down. And you'll get to the end of it, you'll see it. I just said, of this total, if you look to the right, if you drag that over and get to the far right of that, 5 million of that needs to be escalated. 5 million of the 8 million needs escalation.
Oh, that's very heavy.
5 years of escalation.
But Bob, we'll have to bring fire in on that to get to a point of accuracy, because it's not just that the number needs escalation, but even the numbers that you have updated quotes for, we need to be factoring in soft costs, and that's part of what they did is escalation and soft costs, right? So I guess if we have some updated numbers, but many of them are old, maybe we can get support in getting to a point that's somewhat more accurate.
Well, it depends on what path we take. If we're doing just the repairs, then very little soft costs. When you get into a major, like to new, that's where you need the soft costs as a cushion. When you get into renovates nice and you're doing the repairs,
My
lot of-
understanding is there's still soft costs associated
There,
with some of these
there will be
projects.
some.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'll give you an example. There's gonna need to be a GC because we don't want Bob to quit. So he's gonna, somebody who's gonna need to run that, so but it won't be
Yeah.
anywhere near. Renovate to new.
Since
soft
7
cost
this
would be
morning.
A ton more, and you have to have overage. These, you can have direct flows, which he's already getting like under reviews.
Yeah, so let me,
Right.
yeah, I'll address the direct quotes, and that's
Yeah.
a really good point, but what I did was there's a bit of contingency in all those quotes because they're unknown when they're gonna happen. So
Right.
we measure to the top. So for my numbers, I'm thinking that there wouldn't be soft cost in there. But then again, it's only a few million of the 8.
Right.
So
Okay.
the 5 is really critical. I want to make sure that I'm working off of these numbers. They're 5 years old. Some of these numbers, I have no idea where they came from. So, but
Right.
it kind of gets us into that area
Okay.
where your 25% of 5 million is. And then add 3 million to that. That's probably kind of where I would have been at a particular school.
Gotcha.
So to go before we go, yeah. So is there any other?
There's
There
a
is?
more
Good.
questions.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Fine.
So in the middle school list, you included the cost for an elevator cab, but everyone's assumption is that, and there was not one included at the high school, but the assumption is that the one at the middle school was newer and the one at the high school be older. So we were curious about what the reasoning was.
So did I put a maintenance number on that? I might have changed it. I'm gonna look at that now, look at it up here. We're gonna have to get down to the high school.
Yeah, there was like.
Let me get to that. So the middle school is the newest elevator.
Yeah,
Okay.
but there was
So there's a-
30,000 for a new cab.
No, so I didn't change I'm sorry. I didn't want to go back and change what they said it was.
Okay.
I wanted to talk to that. So I put $40,000 in there for general maintenance,
Okay,
Okay.
upgrades.
okay. But-
An
And I
elevator
assume-
replacement on the high school site is about 150.
Correct, yeah,
Gotcha.
and we decided we could probably go without that one, but I was just curious why that one needed a cab. It's not a cab. we just changed the
maintenance.
verbiage. It's maintenance.
Gotcha.
That was-
Yeah, I tried not to change the verbiage because it's not my document to do that. I didn't want to confuse you by doing that. And then even when I added one line item, I was concerned that I was going to confuse you because a lot of people go by Excel line item numbers and
Yeah.
I was throwing it up
Yeah.
by line.
Yeah, no, but I just wanted to know what that was, and that makes sense.
Okay. The next question was about the cost of partitions in the bathrooms. Renovating versus individual toilets and sinks. So I think the question was that their bathrooms. Where it says renovate bathrooms and there's a whole list. Then there's an additional list talking about upgrades to sinks and toilet units. And we'd talked in high school about not doing bathroom renovations fully, but doing the upgrades to the sinks and the toilets. Then you'd also talked about the cost of partitions and how expensive that was. I think folks wanted to understand where the partition costs were located and that we're not necessarily committing to renovating all of the bathrooms in the building. But
So you re-
if you could just help us understand how you broke it out.
So toilets and urinals and partitions. Okay, if you look to the farthest left, then I have a lot of red there. Those are petitions. The petitions definitely need to be replaced. Some of the urinals need to be replaced. Most of the sinks need to be upgraded because they are either, there's a lot, they're coming from the walls, they're 20 years old, they're a plastic tub. So I included a lot of that. My renovation would be ripping everything out, basically, maybe tile renovation, floor, stuff like that. No, we're not going to do that. It's just kind of a replacement of appliances, which is not any deep plumbing work. It's really removing sinks, putting new fixtures in, removing toilets that we think that need to be done. Petitions, yes. Overall, but not much. other than that. So it's hard because of the way they broke that up, and you're absolutely right. So I tried to touch free is really the sinks. Toilets and sinks is really a combination. Yeah, it thinks the sinks in there is really not, you got touch-free sinks above it, then they say replace toilets and sinks. Sometimes people call toilets sinks, but the touch-free is confusing. So if you look at those numbers, I'm like, oh, that's a toilet. Or a few with a petition, so I kind of left those numbers as it was.
But the numbers
Everything
under,
in red, I just kind of kept in.
right, I pulled the copy.
So you come down to $74,000. If all my numbers to the right kind of categories, what I did was when I added this up, I took it in sections because I break it up an awful lot between the red, which I think should be included in the black that I didn't include. I tried to move it over to total it to the right. If you look at the Excel sheet, so if you're looking at the middle school side, you see the 74,000, that's that group of red costs.
Right.
You'd have to go down to You're still on the bids, yeah. So go right down, pull it all the way over to the left so you can get the school first. Yeah. Look for that first red, there's your high school. And then keep going.
Middle school, please.
Yeah, you'll see another yellow. I tried to do that so you can scroll quick and then grab it, keep going down. There's your middle school start, and then over to the right. You'll start to see, if you pull it forward, you can see how I grouped those. So just see, look at the 40, right? I pulled the 40 over, right? That's a solo number, but as you go down and you group it, 256, those are those 3 line items.
Okay.
That's kind of how I totaled my work. Simply.
Scrolling down just a little bit further to where it's talking about bathrooms.
To see how I included 50% of the classrooms. Right.
So I guess this is where our question came up. You've got 154,000 in there under renovate bathrooms. And we were wondering, like, is that the cost of the partitions? Or is that
No,
something
that's
else?
a different item. See, those are bath, no showers. So that is see how it's locker room above that?
Yep.
So I assumed that was, they dropped those showers, no showers, bathrooms and stuff under locker room. I kept that separate. It's the only way that I could think that was categorized. Because there's bathrooms in the locker rooms. And I assumed that based on this, that those items right there, renovate bathroom, renovate bathroom, are those in the locker rooms. Is there both sides, boys and girls? There's bathrooms in each.
How many bathrooms are there, Bob?
Uh,
5, 6.
They're large stalls in the bathrooms on both sides, boys and girls. I think it's 4 and 4, so 11. And then there's individual ones. And the middle school's got an individual one in one of the areas, so.
But those bathrooms, I don't think they're all bathrooms in the locker rooms. I mean, in the list, in the walkthrough notes, it says like unisex restroom in the hallway, 1 girl, 1 boy, 1 women, 1 men, 1 unisex restroom, 1 near the elevator. Like, it's giving different locations around the building. So
But if we're just gonna change the,
Right there,
do you see that? The section that you told of 154,000.
yeah,
Those ones under the walkthrough notes, I think those are bathrooms throughout the building.
individual single bathrooms.
like, how are the bathrooms in that building?
Middle school side?
Yeah.
Good. The sinks are different than the multi-room bathrooms. They need crowding fixtures.
What do you think, the 11 bathrooms?
So you know what? I
We can
didn't,
cut that out.
that's the problem when you're working with it. It
No, I
spreads
know.
out this
Yeah, yeah.
far. I don't
Yeah.
watch that other cutoff.
This document is really unwieldy.
Yes.
And you're right that it would make sense to locate the things under the locker rooms that
Yes.
were relevant to the locker rooms, but I'm not sure that that's what they've done.
Yeah, not if you're calling it out that way. So, and I'm expanding my view now and it's like, yeah, the whole page is there.
Yeah.
So do you think we could
Yeah.
potentially?
Yep.
Take 100 grand out of that 150 or something?
Mhm.
Okay.
Absolutely.
You know, if things need to be replaced, you know, I don't wanna, we're already in trouble if we don't.
Yeah,
fund
that's
it.
why we're glad we're doing this. A second set of eyes. It's hard enough to do.
Yeah.
Trying to get to that.
So we're taking it from 164 to 54.
Yeah, 154
Just-
out.
Just,
so
you know, I'm sure he's got partitions that are beat up and toilets and, you know, at least.
Okay, thank you. That
See,
that
the one
answers the committee
page
question about the
is
partitions and the.
one
renovation.
bath to 3
Cause
baths.
the other ones spell out partitions.
They
further
do,
down.
yeah.
Does everyone have clarity on that? So we can go on to the next
Mhm.
question.
It looks like you dropped down that one number to 210 from 385.
It did.
What is it?
Yeah.
Sprinkler heads.
Yeah, I did because they basically this. So first of all, I know what the alarm panel cost is. They had it estimated at about $85,000. So right now, the middle school only has remotes. They have enunciators. They're not a full cost of a panel, so that's why I put 10,000 in there. That'll do the enunciators in the middle school side. They're run from the high school side. The high school side, you'll see a replacement of the panel set.
Hmm.
Okay, but our heads here are in good shape. Heads are usually replaced systematically instead of all at once, because then you have to do them all. So I just took a maintenance number there to handle some head areas that would be, there's certain areas of locations that heads would need to be replaced versus others like workshops and things like that, because they just get deteriorated faster. So I just cut that down, basically, and the smoke detectors as well. That's kind of a maintenance item. It's not like you come in here and change all the smokes, not in this facility, all the smokes and heats that are in here. You just don't have to do that. Because they're tested every year, and we would do it in a maintenance. It was just a way for me to kind of cut back some costs. Those were big numbers.
So there was the next question. And you might have to help me figure out what I meant here. Some of the so I wrote security items. There are red stars next to some things. And the question was does everything with a red star, is that meant to be included or excluded? Under electrical, there was like emergency circuit wiring that
That was
had
my-
red stars.
my question.
Yeah, that was Brett's question. It had red stars, but it wasn't included. The number wasn't in red.
So like down at security on the last page, there's something for 114,000. But you don't have it included on the.
So that's right. So it's hard with not, so I can answer those questions. So those I did because I either didn't have a cost or needed to speak about them. So those just stayed that way. If you go up to the high school, I think I updated, I have some new security numbers, which is inclusive of the complex. I didn't want to, I could split numbers, middle school, high school, but I wanted to make sure that I didn't include any security upgrades on the middle school side because I put them all in the high schools.
Okay.
I used it as a complex. It was just easier for me with all these numbers.
Mhm.
Could split that up. The remaining number would be the same. We have some, so I do have some numbers on security upgrades here, which consist of cameras, door entries, the entire.
110 at the high school, is that what you're talking about?
That's correct.
Okay, so that encompasses about,
So.
it had your number in there.
No, because the number, thank you, John, because the number is 220. So maybe I meant to do that. So I'm going to change this to 110.
What are you changing to
I'm
100?
going to change mine. You're not going to see it. So see the 114
With the asterisk. on it.
Yeah.
with the asterisk?
Uh-huh.
So that would be the other half of the middle school. So I didn't quite get to.
Oh, so 114 should be 110.
110,000. 110,000 at the high school would separate the two if you wanted to do it that way. I just didn't get to the middle
Okay.
school side. Those numbers came to me yesterday afternoon, so I probably got distracted. in those.
So that 110 is half of the
It's
security
half, the
upgrade. quote.
entire security new upgrades that we platform that I think the school will be that I'd like to use for other schools as well is about $220,000 to bring us to. That's all new front entry setups for the administrators. That's cameras for the entire property. We're testing 5 of those cameras now. They're phenomenal. So yeah, that's my new numbers.
Okay, and you removed the rest of the security costs because that was sort of an all-encompassing.
I did,
Okay,
because I didn't kind of safety code the way they broke them up. Just
okay.
Yep.
And then I wrote timing on outdoor lighting. Anyone remember what that question was about the outdoor lighting? Is that something that was like maybe the question was, do we need to do that now or later? Is it, if we do it now, is there a financial benefit or it pays for itself in a certain number of years, right? I think maybe that was the question.
so, right, so there's 2 things there. You have interior and exterior light. The exterior lighting is not included in my price for the interior lighting, which is an Eversource program. The exterior lighting is on the building only. As you can see, I put in red. Those things eventually need to be updated. Our parking lots are LED now. We want to start changing over outdoor lights. And it's something that, it's a $25,000 estimate. You can remove that and we can make it a maintenance item, but I wanted to put it in here to show that we do need that.
Okay. I mean, I think probably keep it in because it's
Mhm.
it's likely the kind of thing that pays for itself very quickly.
Yeah, it does for maintenance as well. We see the huge difference in the outdoor. Yeah, the 25. 25 on the middle school side. I might have put another stipend up on that. Or
And then the last question that we had, I think we understand the answer, but we just wanted to get clarity. In the Gordian report, there are no sidewalks or parking lot, quotes for sidewalks or parking lots or fields under the middle school. The assumption is that all of that was included under the high school.
That's correct. I think there's one last line item there at high school that encompasses. So you'll see that under the high school, that would be all. You'll see it, that's a current estimate, and that is $35,000 to repair all the cracks and seal coat the parking lot and then repaint all the lines. Didn't break that up because then I'd be counting parking spaces.
Right.
where do we call middle school, high school?
We just wanted to make sure we weren't, you know.
So that's a great question. I can only tell you what I did.
You get the credits.
Good question.
I think that was our list of. That was our list of questions from last week. So unless
Thank you
there were
for
any
the-
others, we could go to Biz.
Thank you for the correction. I did the same format on the Biz. It's a little easier because it's not as many pages. But you'll see an awful lot of rapid Biz, and that's really based on the age of the building and some of the things that need to be done to do others. So just right off the bat, about a year and a half ago, if not 2 years ago, I asked how we would bring in a small chiller system, HVAC, to get that place air conditioning, and the estimates at that time were anywhere between 1.8 and 2 million. It was a round ball, big estimate. How we would do it being lower the ceilings, we have enough space there to bring in ductwork, how we would break that up. So I just threw that number in. And that's the last number that I had spoke about that deal with our current HVAC contract. Very top 2 million.
Did it used to be 4,000?
Yeah, because what they were doing was looking at mini splits, which are only little units for each room.
Okay.
We're looking at a system that would provide air conditioning to the building. Yeah. That's the hard part. You know, you can see, so desire to add mini splits for the library, main office, nurse's office, and miscellaneous things there, $14,000. Well, a mini split is 10 right now. I don't know how you add all those up with 14. 5 years ago, maybe we were in a great position to do mini splits for 14, but we're 10 each now.
Yeah, they were about 8.
Yeah, so we're now at 10. So obviously those weren't included. Really quickly, there's the $1 million for the electrical upgrade. They were estimating, I think, about 600,000 5 years ago. It's all of $1 million now to bring it in from the road. And that includes those items below, which would be the circuit breaker panels, you know, whatever you needed to do inside. I kind of threw that into the $1 million. Hopefully that's enough. Mhm. The asterisk is after the 229 is the upgrade all indoor LED lighting. That's kind of done. I think if we were making any changes to rooms or configurations of the building, we'd look at probably adding things, but I just took that up. Carl had a great program. They came in and replaced those lights, and they all have sensors. So we're hoping that we can continue just using that upgrade there. So I eliminated that stuff.
Are those sensors working right?
Yeah. That's, you know, sensors are. Cool.
That's aligned with the 3 asterisks, right? But
Almost like a talking point for me, Jim.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
You know, so you'll see as you go down, you know, exterior doors, every single one needs to be, most of them are rotted on the bottom, so we include those.
Are those doors gonna be those new low pressure opening?
They're all low pressure when they're in a brand new frame. As soon as they swell, come out of components. So that's the biggest thing about that building. All those sills that you saw, the doors are catching, that's really where it is. You have a very good door frame. You have a very good operating door.
Hopefully for 15G, we get a good door frame.
The doors here, just to give you perspective, to replace the 4 doors in the gymnasium here is $12,000.
Each?
No, for all.
Oh.
Yeah,
In the main one.
yeah. Mhm. And that's to put a mullion in the center to prevent the doors from being destroyed by when you kick it. But they're fire rated.
You think those doors get kicked by kids? Come on.
It's the easiest way out when your hands.
Those exterior doors are clearly a priority.
Yep.
And you think, I mean, those numbers match the old numbers. Do those go on the list of numbers that will need to be updated?
Those are escalation numbers.
Those are escalated or they will be.
Unless I've told you that it's a new quote or estimate,
Okay,
those are part of the,
okay. And you separated that out for us.
yeah, I've tried to come up
Okay.
with a number that you have to add to escalation
Okay.
based. Just to give it very close.
Yeah.
So here's a question, and I don't build schools, so forgive
You do now.
I do now. Talking to Mr. Nate, he said that having so many exterior doors is a lot to handle and a lot to take over. If we're replacing all of them, are there any that we don't have to replace and you can make the wall, like, do we need 2 doors to every room that they have? I heard it was like 22 exterior doors. Do we need all of those doors to be functioning, or can they not be replaced in something to be put?
So how that works, Darcy, is it's all based on capacity. It's a fire code. We have to be able to exit so many people
Mhm,
in a certain amount of time.
mhm.
So your exterior doors are placed based on where your classrooms or rooms are. So if you look at this library, there's the number of doors in this library is completely related to its capacity. How many people you can put in it. So you have to put people, you have to egress people safely out of basically, this is an assembly. Any assembly has certain fire code regulations. So we would have to look at that to see if, based on usage, and that's a great question, if usage changes, we may be able to eliminate some of those doors.
Just a question, because that's something Nate said, that there are a lot of exterior doors and we saw some of them.
Yeah.
I mean,
Nate probably doesn't know that, but yes, they are, and they're very difficult to maintain. And we say, don't use these unless in an emergency for a reason.
right,
But if your hallways are split, you got so many kids in these classrooms, literally, you should see it here. These classrooms go that way. These classrooms go that way, because those staircase can only handle that many people.
Mhm.
Egress, and you need double doors, not a single door, because you can only get so many people through a single door, and a double door, you can double.
Mhm.
So it's all fire code.
Okay.
And the second trigger is distance, right?
Yeah, so you have travel distance. So depending on where you are in this room, there's a maximum distance where I need to put a door so you can get to it.
Okay.
So that's why that's there, because that door is too far for you to escape.
okay. It's just thinking.
That was that year class that was brutal. But yes, there's a lot of there. So, and really, anywhere else but an assembly, especially a school, that's where those codes really pull in. Because then you're dealing with age. So staircase width, we talked about that. That's all part of that fire code. So yeah, but depending on usage, there might be a few we can.
Yeah,
eliminate.
not that we shouldn't do them, but if it's just something.
If you're
where-
looking for a way to kind of
Mhm.
bust the price down a touch, that's another way to look.
Right.
And have any of them been replaced or no? Are they all real?
They look original to me.
We've done hardware, hinging, repairs, but I don't think any of the doors have come off and put on. Probably not during mine and Carl's time, but maybe Paul's time.
All would have oiled it up and made it work good.
No, they were replaced.
Were they?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. Maybe when he did them, they did all new door frames.
So you have repointing and, that numbers might be high. I just took now, I didn't put the other 10-year of the 416, so. I put that in there because you guys saw some areas of that school that needs pointing, but most of those areas probably around those staircases on the side of the building need repair. Removal of those bricks and then just re-bricking facing up, so. That's a area of potential movement that I'm not quite.
So those are all those numbers, exterior stairs, Bob, where you
Yep.
got all your red numbers, that's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, so you replace concrete stairs, right? So I left those numbers in there, but I have no idea how they came up with $2,000 numbers for stuff like that. So, I threw them in there, but that is my concern. We looked at those brownstone stairs and stuff. If you were to take those out, I'm assuming the one that doesn't go over the cafeteria, that doesn't need that.
Mhm.
And depending if we don't,
Recast.
depending if we don't utilize the basement anymore for anything other than.
Those
shades.
stairs going down, right, but the ones going to the auditorium is your second egress. You'll always have to keep those.
Actually, and maybe another third one up the stage, right?
That's
Yes.
correct.
Yeah.
And I'll have to
You need them
stage-
all.
Because you can't mix your group that's
Right,
on the
right,
stage with your
right,
group that's they need to go out a different exit. Absolutely.
Just a question, my stupidity. When you were to get stairs like that are precast, I would assume you don't just look in a catalog and buy them. They have to be custom cast for.
Yeah, they'll measure elevations.
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Yeah, and sometimes they have to make grade changes to
So
get
that
the,
would, that would
those numbers
inflate
in
the
there.
price too. They're not, it'll be United, they're not terrible. They do it every day.
yeah, just don't really have a good feel. That's why we'll have to. put
Yeah, those
these
just
numbers
were
down.
not, those weren't a couple steps,
For the
those were some
architect.
significant levels.
Lots of them.
Lot of cement, a lot
So
of
as you see those
elevation.
numbers in there, they're not, it's. You're talking big construction, not
Mhm.
$10,000.
Mhm.
But you don't feel comfortable updating that to,
No, well, I mean, if you're looking for the number, I have $455,000 in there. Maybe we're not doing that as much brick repointing, but you're gonna use the majority of that money for upstairs. $500,000.
right, because right now I'm only looking at what, 18,000 for the stairs.
Yeah.
For all of those stairs.
It's not a chance.
No, I did stair work for the town and it's much more expensive. You're gonna see some boiler stuff there, and that's the current dilemma that I'm going through now. So if we were to replace one of the current boilers, which we have to at least one, maybe two, we're in negotiations for that now. We're not quite sure where we're gonna go. $150,000 place mark there is for the second boiler that you guys, everybody saw today that's still running. Okay,
Wait, you're talking about the boiler? Hold
yeah,
on.
jump down to replace boilers and burners.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay.
Current estimate for one, $150,000. That's assuming that we're gonna replace one now. Okay. The only reason why there's asterisks above that for the condensate tank and stuff, I didn't remove those because we just had this discussion today. It really wasn't in my mindset to keep the steam system. So I put asterisks there because basically condensate tanks and heat exchangers and stuff go away when the steam system goes away. But there's additional costs to renovate the rest of the building to all water from steam. So there's hundreds of thousands of dollars to do that as well. So if I replace a boiler now, which I'm gonna have to do, I'm gonna be stuck with steam because I have to do it all or none, and we're not gonna be into the building to do those repairs. I can only do the boiler stuff now, so we're gonna be sticking with a steam system. So you could be adding those asterisks for condensate tanks, heat exchangers. We can make those red today and add those to the total. Because as of 3:30 this afternoon, this is where we are. The only other thing that we did discuss, we have controllers. Right? We have a controller system that controls Brownstone is the brain. The 1998 Windows computer is down there. And it runs the system. 98. Can only get them on eBay. I had to find them today. So that controls Valley View and Gildersley. Brownstone is the brains. So in capital, for years, we've been saying, let's drop the buildings, do separate controls in each one, and then Brownstone will be the last one. Well, really, I can leave that system up and running and still run Gildersleeve and Valley View and put new controls in with the new boilers at the same time, so that project's done. Working on a price for that, because I think it would be crazy not to do the controllers with the new boilers, so the school is done, depending on what we have to.
Is that the 962 there that's shown? Is that what you're talking about? Upgrade heating system controls to DDC?
We can operate it independently and we still have to keep the Windows 98 computer rolling in the basement. The Windows 98 computer in the basement, we'll still have to control Gildersleeve and Valley until we can drop those off. And did we have the money, or Carl have the ability to do that with Valley View? When we did the boilers, it was done in a one and then another. The controls weren't part of that to separate Valley View. We'll have to separate them all eventually. It's certainly not the way to run this.
We lost that point.
Yeah,
And then the other one, like, oh, right, without stuff. Cost was $86,000. So they get an operator.
The 917,000.
17 down the bottom.
I don't see that.
Is this not the doctored up one yet?
Yeah, I'm not on the doctor.
I'm not in the doctored up one
Line
either,
item,
so I'm
yeah.
trying to understand what the nine
I'm not
seventeen is.
numbered. I'm under HVAC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dead center of HVAC. Oh, right.
Oh, down there, okay.
Get better.
Yeah, okay, so can we work down through the HVAC? So what are you including and not including? That 917 didn't make it into your list, is that true?
No, didn't,
Yeah, I don't see 917.
that's 500.
No, the HVAC,
HVAC totals up 962.
yeah, so the HVAC in my world was your first line. That's your $2 million system.
Yep.
Kind of eliminated all the baloney in there about HVAC and then
Okay.
adding and making the existing rooftop air handling units to provide cooling. Not updating those. I went off a $2 million number to try to get HVAC in there with a small chiller system.
So what you're
What do you think, Mike?
what you're picturing is a boiler system for the heat and then the new HVAC that top.
The
number.
chiller system
Yep,
separate,
yep.
yeah.
And that would also move the air
Not
and all that stuff.
Yep.
Okay, I'm just
It's, yeah, it's very similar to here, you know, we run our boilers,
100%.
but
Yep.
then we use a chiller. It's unfortunately, it's a two pipe system or say a single
Well,
pipe
this is
system.
one.
Yeah, we can only do, it's a return and supply. And unfortunately, we can't do both. And that is troublesome. You have to eliminate it. We need to shut valves off. We need to close stuff that doesn't leak. Yeah.
So which ones did we decide? Okay. Going out of that.
So not to worry about those not included stuff. 2 million was an estimate, could be 3, who knows?
So your total estimate for the HVAC in this section is 962,000.
Is that part of with the boilers? I'm trying to get to that, where you see that.
I'm looking
It's
at
under,
your,
yes, it's under cooling though, so this would be taken out, right? Because you have the cooling in the 2 million on top.
So the AHUs, I kept those in red. Because I'm not quite sure, I wasn't really sure at that time what we were gonna be able to do. That would have to be an architectural or an HVAC design. I was concerned about eliminating stuff like that in case we had to do sections of the building. Additions, I don't have enough technology knowledge on that, so.
So we're gonna need a good HVAC quote. That's basically what you're saying, right?
Yeah, and that was difficult to even get 2 years ago. I mean, the estimate was a $2 million estimate then.
Yep.
See if we can get a chiller in there to do AC.
Right, because then that has nothing to do with the
No.
heat, the boiler. I'm just trying to get a handle on.
Your exhaust systems, your air ventilation systems, what those are right there, moving air, what they were trying to do here, I believe, and maybe Briar can help me with that. They wanted to update those existing units to be able to provide cooling or assistance to the cooling. So with a chiller system, that's out of the question.
Bob, you have asterisk, you got $500,000 on upgrade heating black pipe and it says change over hot water to steam. So now you're being driven down the steam path.
Black pipe
Does
still
that-
needs to be done. There's a
does it-
ton of bad.
To
black
that
pipe.
same total,
Mhm.
you think?
Yeah, pipe is the pipe there. So if you look at Brownstone, the pipe that you saw is okay. It's the pipes you don't see.
Mm.
And how you get to those chases and stuff to replace pipe. We've replaced a lot of pipe downstairs in that boiler room. There's a lot more that has to be done. And that black pipe could include those classrooms and stuff. So we need to put a value on that because we know that the pipe needs to be done. So that's a shot.
Hmm.
Can't eliminate it. We know that there's pipe that has to be done outside of the new stuff that'll have to be done. I'd like to sprinkle that too.
So be safe. We're gonna need someone to give us a number on that, right? Is Fryer our guy? What we got? Hey, Mike?
You know, I think that's what Fryer did, to be perfectly honest with you. He took basically this, put escalation where he thought it needed to be, made some of those changes where some of this report, I mean, I'm just summarizing, made some of the changes where some of this stuff didn't kind of make sense to be put in, and that's kind of where he came up with his capital numbers. I've kind of tried to go down list by list saying, well, I think these should be included, probably missed some stuff that Certainly the architects probably included that's not here, that is not in my mindset, but I don't think I'm far off price wise. I could be far off on what I'm saying that we're doing, Mike, but I mean, if you look at the overall number here, I'm about $8 million in what I picked, and about 5 of that still needs escalation. So what's that bring us to about 14, 13?
For me to put a number on this approach, but right. I just can't commit to putting up on this.
Right.
I wouldn't know where to get a window for that game machine.
Fair.
I found one on eBay today.
You're gonna know inside the HVAC system because you're up in the duct. You're at ductwork, you know. when you take it out.
So my new controls are gonna be
I think you're
upgraded.
doing an awesome job. It's
Which
just
way?
this approach is just not.
It's, yeah,
foreign.
Yeah.
It's a maintenance plan, and you're doing a great job with it, but right out of the gate, I know that the HVAC number is half of what it needs to be.
it's good to know.
And yeah, and that's
Mhm.
just quick numbers for you.
Well, and it's interesting you say that because it's 2 years ago on that. We looked at, and here's the thing, just so that'll bring it in. Not even a year and a half ago, we were looking for the grant for here. Okay. We wanted $200,000 to get $800,000. So the cost of the units today are $250,000 more. So we're already more than the money we were looking for the grant in a year and a half.
Escalation is.
Escalation is insane. So there's where, thank you, Mike, for that, but there's where you have to be really careful with my numbers. Right? I gave you good estimates on very few items. I used existing 5-year-old numbers that I'm not sure what book they were from or where they come up with $2,000 for stairs, but I included them because that had to be done. But that's concerning because I didn't make any changes to those numbers.
Well, I think you're heavy on the pointing, which would offset the stairs. Right?
Yeah, but there's so many, like, there's 2 million right there. From
Well, I
the
think-
professionals on the HVAC.
Right. I think if we're gonna go down this road, we should get a real number on that. And that's easy to do, I think. There, plenty of companies that would love to bid it. Let's get a number. I mean, let's see what else we come up with on this list, but it sounds like that's gonna be the element. And we need a number on it, a good number. It can't be a guess. If here we are, we're all over the place.
So I had a couple companies.
Based on what we're going through right now, even you get a number next week, it's probably gotta be escalated.
Well, they're gonna, any budget number,
Fred, to be right.
you're gonna ask for a budget number, it's gonna have escalation in it. Hopefully they'll tell you what they did. It's hard.
And these people do it every day, and they'll also know there may be something we're looking at it completely different. Maybe they do it in 2 systems, or, there could be what they do for. Shouldn't.
Well, that Perfect Temp came out and they're good at what they do. And I'll tell you, they had some concerns with that building on how they were gonna be able to do it. And they just threw a number at it and they said, it's not gonna stick on the wall. So we'll see when we get there, where it will be. And they might walk in the door and say the same thing, double that number.
To your point though, Bob,
double that number.
you gotta give yourself more credit. I understand that, it's hard to pin a number on these dollar amounts. But I think the other thing we're trying to do here is to go through this list and see which of these line items
Mhm.
we could outsource. And you're helping us with that too, so.
And you bring up a great point. I mean, this isn't just unique to Brownstone. A lot of the issues you're bringing up are gonna also apply to the renovate to new numbers. There's no reason they wouldn't. Obviously, Brownstone has its own hurdles. It's a little different, but these are all things we're gonna have to really talk about at the end when we start hashing this out. We may think renovate to new is, and thank you for giving those numbers, 20 million a school or whatever after reimbursement, maybe. That may be out the window already. So these are all the things we're gonna have to talk about because, so right now, I think our biggest animal at the Brownstone so far is HVAC. I don't have a comfort level on that. I'm not an expert on that, or want to be. I think to get a real number there and potentially Valley View and potentially Gildersleeve, we are going to need to get those quotes. And I'm not trying to put more on you, Bob. I really, really appreciate everything you've done. I'm not even sure how long that would take for somebody to give us some numbers. But I think moving forward, that's one of the big tickets. It's also one of the big reimbursement numbers. We need to get that's a big number. The roofs, you've already started the legwork on that, and thank you. I think we're gonna, in that's also our second big ticket, is roof. And HVAC, so we're gonna need to really iron that out, but that's it, we'll keep going through this.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're pretty close to the end of Brownstone and, you know, the other items are, they add up, but you're right, there's big ticket items there. And there's a lot of unknowns at Brownstone still, you know, we estimating parts of the roof that, flat parts of the roof that have not been. I don't even have estimates on Brownstone. I went through the same company that's been doing the other ones and they still haven't put some numbers on what needs to be done there. And I asked them, I said, do me a favor in case it comes up. Look at slate roof repairs for maintenance, look at replacement of the slate roof because of the safety issues. Absolutely look at snow guards and things like that on it. And then the flat roofs over the gym and that back area need to be completely replaced. So that's what I'm kind of looking for. Pretty good numbers.
Can you talk about the safety issues a little bit with the slate roof? Because I know you were addressing some of that, but I think that it was hard to hear during the tour because there were a lot of conversations happening at the same time.
Yeah, so I mean, and you could say this might be a personal thing because my public safety background, I tend to see the lean on safety much more than.
Which for the record, I personally really appreciate, and I think the whole community should appreciate. I mean,
So
safety is
slate-
a top priority.
Slate roofs are wonderful. The aesthetics are fantastic, especially on brick and brownstone buildings and things. But when you're using them as an assembly, you bring more people into the hazard area. Okay, so when you lose a shingle from your roof at home, it floats away to the front yard and if it hits your car, probably doesn't damage it. When you lose a piece of slate, which we have, Earl can tell you how many pieces that he's picked up in the parking lot and pieces that I've picked up at the park. Okay, when that slate comes off a roof that high, you don't want it to hit anything but the parking lot because if it hits anything but that, it's damaged. It could be a car or a person. So I look at it as usage. That's just me. Love the roof. I think it's awesome. But there's a lot of areas that roof is exposed to areas that we are traversing with
With
people
kids.
and bodies. So is there a way to, sometimes there's flat roofs that are extended out from slate roofs that do most of that, catch most of that. Most of our areas don't have that. They're over staircases.
Right, because we have those, what, 2 or 3, so it's essentially the side of the calf
It is.
and the auditorium.
It really is. It
We
is.
should address, and I love the fact that you said the phrase snow stops, that, if we do it nowhere else, it needs to be done there. That is so important.
Yeah,
the
because
other
that
two-
high up there, a snow slide.
That is essentially in, if we end up doing the reconfiguration, like I did draw, and I'll eventually give everybody a copy of this. That's easy to achieve, where I put the place next to the building and everything over there, that you could leave a gap between the building, and we should. Other than the staircases, and they need to be covered, and one of them is, I believe, one of those rooms is already partially, and we could spin that one, 45 degrees, so it comes out straight instead of turns. Not the one above the calf car, or the other one in the corner, the one for the stage. Does an immediate turn, it could go straight out, and that roof could just continue over, it'd be nice and safe.
Can't go straight.
They can.
No, because it's gonna run into the egress.
The way it's laid out, get rid of that parking lot there on the side and shift everything over.
Fine.
If you want to go that route. It's easy to cover it. Either way, you can put a little over to cover it, but we have to address that. I think that is a real thing. The rest of the slate, I don't think it's an issue with the building.
Well, Bob, are you saying that the slate roof in general should be eliminated, or we should just find ways to protect from falling slate? I asked the question because I know that now there are PVC alternatives and a lot of alternatives for slate that are probably long-lived. But
Slate
I don't
looking.
know if that's something that would put us over the top.
That's why I kind of asked for a regular 30-year roof. To replace the slate and remove it, and then just for some idea on what they think based on visual that we would need to repair now and maintain, and then I don't have any knowledge on any safety mechanisms to kind of protect a slate roof from the assembly under it, because they probably don't put them on the buildings that are in question in relation to assemblies such as a school.
It would definitely be a little, for sure, I agree. with
I
it.
would love.
Be a little roof over the staircase, is what he's saying, is spot on. I don't think you would want to start messing with that, but you could protect them. Basically, it's those two, and having parking lot right up against the building, have people right on, literally, we do right now, that would be perfect to reconfigure and get them out safely.
So hopefully we'll have some ideas from the roofing consulting company who's been very good. Try to get us ballpark figures, which have all kind of tied into what we've talked about with fire. We're all right in the same, actually, they're just higher now because the escalation's going up, but they all incorporate the 51% reimbursement if it meets the standards, you know. I think they've seen the packages are excellent. So I just have to reach back out to him and see if he can get something to us so we can talk about that. Certainly the back roof, the flat roofs need to be completely done. Some of those might need to be redecked. Not quite sure how bad they are underneath them, but
Like over the locker room there, Bob.
they did some core samples, not only here, but I'm sure they probably did a few there for me as well. To give us a good idea what's under them. We're finding moisture and stuff that's already impacted the decking, and they're probably gonna replace that too, and they'll put an estimate in on that.
And that's nowhere on this list currently, correct?
The flat roof stuff is, but I kind of just left those numbers because I don't have any new numbers. You'll see,
Counter roof, yeah,
right.
we're gonna drop ceilings in classroom renovations.
Sorry, we'll go to your
I'm not
notes when we
trying to
get.
hop
No,
around.
no, and you're right. We should stay on track that way.
Yeah.
I know you can edit as we go. Make sure you.
Thank you.
So, I mean, I can cruise through there, replace the gym floor. Well, that obviously I didn't put in there because I know that work's been done there. We didn't do that. Did we do classrooms? I forget how far we went.
No, we're still on the first.
Drop ceiling replacement,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, hold on.
Well, get us back.
Wait for us to get caught back up. Can you go up just a?
Yeah, you're right
little bit more
around there.
Before plumbing, we were in interior shelf still. Here,
Good.
thank you, that's good. So you kept in the quotes for the classroom renovations and the drop.
Everything needs to be done in the classrooms. The values there, I have really no idea what we decide to do or not, but obviously we got to do flooring just based on the age of the room. When you start floors, any HVAC work that we do, certainly we're going to be dealing with the ceilings. Once we address ceilings that are closest to the attic, we're abating, everything kind of rolls into. So I've just included all those numbers.
Can I ask, Rob, is that why you included drop ceilings here as opposed to?
That is correct.
Doing it as maintenance?
Absolutely.
Because we're gonna be doing,
Which they could be dropped. Some areas might turn into fixed ceilings depending on how we run ductwork, how we're gonna need to do that, but we gotta throw those numbers in at least.
Yep.
And we might be a candidate for exposed duct work in the hallways.
With height.
Yeah, the hallways, at least we have the height.
So that's why I included the classroom numbers. That's why I didn't, take anything out. I included all the interior doors. So with those interior doors, as beautiful as they are, if we're like Mike talked today, we might need to make some movements based on ADA. Well, guess what's coming with it? A door and a door frame. So, I included all the interior doors, which are probably not even close to what we would need to do because there's nothing in here related to, that's just saying, let's replace some doors. It has nothing to do with moving doors and restructuring walls and taking walls out. So left that in there. As you can see, I left the flooring in there. As you work your way down, refinishing the stage floor, just didn't include that. Could be a maintenance item. That's why it's asterisk. Replace auditorium seating, did not include that because we still don't even know what we're doing with the auditorium per se. It could be there, could be town, could be ours.
And they look good.
So this is an interesting thing here. Replace classroom furniture per student. So they got a value there of $5,000. Per student. I mean, so is that $5,000 per student or is it $5,000 total? On their spread, it's $5,000 total. It doesn't.
Yeah, That's like the cost of a table these
Yeah.
days. With less furniture.
Oh, 50 per student.
Okay, but their total's 5,000. How many students are in Mountain? What's in the grade? 100. So
Little over 200 right now.
Yeah, so,
So it's
right,
at
so
34 per
1,500
position.
at 200 is a different than, so
Hmm.
Over 300.
So that number is a little bizarre.
it's very low.
I think-
Getting back to where we talked to Fryer about how some of these numbers,
And how is our furniture
uh,
at that building?
some has been updated and some has not. Some of it needs to be done for sure. Yeah, and then, you know, it's all age dependent. Based on
Right.
size and, you know, and that's all determining on how we change the school formats for grades, you know, you're not. You know, move old
The teacher
furniture.
desks look like they're decades old at this.
Yeah,
point.
there's steel desks. So certainly ergonomically, there's been huge changes for students as well as staff. To make the learning environment better, more comfortable. And the classroom layouts have been, I mean, the studies are crazy on efficiency, so. So interior brick walls, replacement. Listen, I didn't put that in there, but you know, let's talk about doorways. That's where you get to replacement interior brick walls. Okay,
What
so,
about
you
the
know,
bleachers right above that? That's-
bleachers I didn't, I put $8,000 in there.
Yeah,
That's basically a maintenance number. Those bleachers are pretty good there.
okay.
I know bleachers are a lot more than that.
Yeah,
And this might be for Mike if I'm allowed. So Mike, if we are going, well, for this conversation. Those doors are gonna need me code. You were explaining. Is it every classroom you would have to do that to, or is it going to be two per grade? Shifting the doorway and potentially closing off the second one, because I don't think we need two. You know, walling it off on the inside, leaving the aesthetics on the outside, but potentially, but how many of those would we have to bring up to ADA requirement to move? This is more in the antique section, the 32 section, just so we're clear. What you got there, would it be every classroom? How should we be looking at it?
For accessibility.
Sorry, Mike, could you talk in the microphone? Just, sorry, just those two, in case. We'll report is for the town.
But he's not.
Thank you, Mike.
I mean, we could do that. we could just want to-
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
We put Mike right there. Mike, you wanna sit right at the table? It's just more comfortable. You look like you need a good seat. We had a long day. Come on. Just walk us through, I would rather be on the safer side.
Sure.
So if you say we need one per grade and then plus the art class, blah, blah, blah. Then obviously I would say we do two per grade plus the specials, but then tell me, you walk me through.
So the minimal approach would be, for accessibility, one classroom per grade. So that you have at least, accessible one classroom. So one classroom for 3, 1 for 4, 1 for 5.
Yep.
You would need to do an art room, you'd have to do, you know, what every program, you know, media center, you'd have to do library, you know, all of those, you know, all of those accessible spaces would have to get done. And that would be for accessibility, moving it into the place where you meet the push-pull clearance.
So the old door would have to go with it in those scenarios. And how about the second door? Could we essentially sheetrock it off from the inside? So it's still there in the hallway, but non-functioning, no handlebar, you know, just.
There is, you need a second exit if it's more than 1,000 square feet or more than 50 people.
Okay, so I don't think we need it with those little, at least those.
No,
that
no,
we
the
were
little
in.
spaces
So
could be,
your answer would be, we have to look at each room. By size.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
we need the second one in the library or something.
That's right.
Okay,
Yep.
okay.
That's cool.
Just a
Yeah.
quick question in the old part of the school, the rooms that we're talking about that have the transom doors. Did we know if those classroom where the doors are load bearing walls? I mean, when we get into moving doors and putting in new doorways, are we gonna be exposing ourselves to more costs under a load bearing area, or do we have any clue?
in the old section, all of the walls are load bearing.
That's what I thought.
But I don't think I think the same size door.
As long as they're putting in the jam in the same opening, I'm just wondering if we were gonna try to widen those door casings, would we be exposing ourselves?
No, I don't, the doors are the right size. They
Just
just
have to
don't have
swing
the
in the
right
proper-
STC rating. They don't have,
Right.
you're supposed to have a minimum smoke rating in an egress corridor. So I don't know if the old doors meet that.
I don't want to speak for Mike, but he mentioned to me that, so basically we'd have to pull those in. That would almost become like a little tiny hallway. and
Yes.
The door would have. all
Or
the
we have to
swing.
swing in.
I think he was trying to get a visual.
Yep.
Well, yeah, I was just wondering, because the way that building is built, I wasn't sure if we got into trying to have to widen those doorways. If we were gonna get into more structural work, you know?
Yeah, I think you're okay there,
Okay.
but 3 or 4 different things affect, I'm just simply talking about accessibility code now. There's 3 or 4 things that affect your choice on what you're gonna do with the doors. So I'll leave it at that unless I'm asked further.
Stay up here if you want.
That's entirely up to
More than welcome.
Yeah.
Probably should have.
I'm here at your guys' convenience. So.
Hey, You're a plethora of knowledge that we could use. Where were we? Laurel? You're good at this.
You were moving into mechanical,
See?
and I think you'd removed all of it except for the elevator.
And. Public, where?
You above classrooms?
We just.
All exhaust fans, I included all that, drop ceilings, classroom renovation.
Keep
Look,
going.
need to figure it out right there.
Yeah. That,
Oh, you're looking at mechanical, so,
Did I
yeah,
write down
I'm sorry.
actually
So
talked to the-
mechanical in my world
Most of it was
is
good.
really big stuff like burners. Furnaces,
Oh,
mechanical in that world
following.
is kitchen equipment.
Yeah.
It is mechanical, but I'm sorry. I'm not even looking at that, Laurel.
Oh, gosh.
On that side, I'm looking at mine. So yeah, so here's the big thing for that. All right, we have no idea what we're gonna do with the CAF. So I didn't include any of that and I put a question mark on that. If the cafeteria kitchen area, which doesn't really exist now, needs to be reconfigured, then you're certainly gonna have a lot more cost than just a refrigerator, a heating unit, and we have the ability to get grants for that equipment. We get a certain amount. We've done some updates. There were some updates there. Really, the big number that needs to be looked at there is what we decide to do with it. If it remains a cafeteria, then that kitchen is gonna have to be reconfigured.
I think from a square
And
footage,
wow, I mean,
I think from a square footage standpoint, and once again, I hate speaking for people, but I did have a conversation with Dr. Britton. And I thought he had a pretty good idea. If the CAF had to move, we talked maybe a couple of the classrooms on that back wing. And he mentioned something about bus drop off, which obviously he knows the logistics of the children much better than I do. And I think we do need to eliminate that square footage downstairs. And I'm talking in its entirety other than the gym. So the CAF, the basement, all that's gotta go. And then I'd like to come up with what square footage do we actually have in that building now? And can we petition the state to go along with it kind of thing, if we were gonna go that route? And I believe that it's very achievable. But that would be, I would think, so back to what I was saying, I think we need some money in for moving the CAF. If we were gonna go that route.
gonna be, you gotta think about that though, then now you're into plumbing and hood systems and everything. else.
Yeah,
And you gotta
and I don't
really
know
have a
what
good
you have
location that
for-
you're not on the first floor with a second floor over you and.
Yep.
That's huge.
I mean, if you
Exterior
ask me the
wall, maybe.
2,000 square feet's worth leaving alone, but I would say it's worth looking into. I think Dr. Britton had some value in some of the things. he thought.
one of your ideas, but the cafeteria in the $80 million renovate to do.
Mhm.
Which would have consisted of all.
If it were
Which
to,
what, Bob? Sorry.
So you renovate a new concept, we'll consider, building a cafeteria, which would include all of those things that I just mentioned.
Right.
If you need a hood system, a suppression system, what are you gonna do in that space? It's just reheating.
And did we eliminate all that, Bob? Now we're in the reheating scenario.
Not even anything in here.
Right.
There's nothing.
Oh, right now, it's bringing food in, we have warmers and heaters.
Right.
So your space is just
Right. I agree with that,
Yeah.
but we wouldn't need the whole hood.
not unless it
Full
changed.
system. Right. So I didn't think it was that big of a deal, but you were right on the sinks and blah, 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 we'd have to make sure it's all set up and done properly, but I'm not opposed to something like that. If that.
So I do know that when there were more grades there previously, they did cook there. Because it was very difficult to transport that much cooked food there.
that was my question, because if we talk about moving a 3rd grade there, could the process that we do now work for 3 grades?
It's a good question.
Does Oak Hill currently use our CAF?
Yeah, they're part of our.
And how many does Oak Hill?
Are they part of our cafeteria? They come down and use the. Yeah.
How many does Oak Hill have in the building? Between staffing and,
It's two, I think about 6 kids.
Oh, it's only six
Yeah.
on both sides, six.
The,
They
the
use the
lake-
sorry, they use the cafeteria, but we don't feed them through, like,
No.
through Portland
I didn't
meals.
think they did.
Okay, yeah, just clear.
Yeah, oh,
No, I just,
They
I
use-
wanted to know who was using the building now. Obviously, we have parking for Oak Hill. We have students from Oak Hill. I wanted to know what that encompassed so I could have a visual, because I know we're potentially, and we've had 4th grades there before, years back. We're potentially considering a 3rd, and I wanted to mention we have Oak Hill there currently, which is over 2 grades there. We have all the staffing for.
Well, they have a
Oak Hill.
small number of students, though. Oak Hill's
He just said
six.
6. And I know
Okay.
the staffing is in their van. I've seen parked there and it's just, but
my,
there are things that come along.
my recollection, I haven't been in that back halls in a while, but. When you go in the back half of the L, I believe the first floor on the left face in the courtyard was the music room.
It is.
And the second floor was the art room. But, if we had too much, I granted, I think I agree that if we can eliminate the basement out of the mix, that'd be great. But if we were to, for example, I'm just thinking outside the box, if you went to the first floor around the bend where the music room is on the left-hand side of the corridor, and it looks like those 2 classrooms on the right side of the hallway are the ones that are being used by Oak Hill.
That's correct.
If you were to open up that section and walk down, go down the hallway, hang a left and walk 2 double doors and make the end of that wing your cafeteria, you would have exterior access. So all your refrigeration, everything else you have to do could potentially be there. And you would be potentially using some space that we're trying to find a purpose for anyway. Just,
Yeah, that was kind of where I was going with, if we are gonna eliminate the basement.
yeah.
Why not, instead of tearing off a whole wing, which maybe that is the right idea, we gotta explore everything, but I thought, okay, instead of tearing off the wing, how would we get rid of it? I don't like the basement. To be very clear. I don't like the basement front, so.
Well, I'm looking at the fact that you get to that cafeteria, the kids gotta go downstairs. And then we have all those ADA issues. It would just make sense to have the cafeteria,
On the main,
Flat
on the
roof.
main floor, right.
Yeah, but still not gonna have a flat one there, because you still got to go upstairs
Get out.
and downstairs.
To get in and out, I understand.
Exit the building.
well, yeah, but I'm saying to go to the cafeteria, the kids currently have to go downstairs, right?
Correct.
In that case, if they're upstairs, they have to come down the stairs, but in that case, on the first floor, it would still be a flat entrance to the
I mean, you
cafeteria.
didn't bring in food in or whatever. It's still
Sure.
gotta get downstairs to where it's.
Just spitballing it.
And depending if the bus loop stays behind the building, but they could congregate there or in the gym like they do now and let them out the rear. Either one would get you.
We have to talk a little bit about the noise issue too, because at Gildersleeve right now, it's very loud, like Route 1. Mary Tamerode's room is, I mean, diagonally across, and the noise is incredible from the cafeteria when we're hearing 2nd and 3rd grade. And just thinking about having the cafeteria right there, like in a room full of, right next to classrooms. I mean,
Well, in my vision, I was thinking you take that hallway right out. You take the whole back half of that bottom of the L. Taking the hallway and the classroom and the music room and opening that.
And that becomes your cafeteria.
That becomes cafeteria. I'm just spitball. I'm just trying to think of
No, no,
another
I
place to
understand.
put it.
That's kind of where I was going with it too.
And what you're saying is.
But
the
then you
music room goes
really
someplace.
wouldn't have a classroom issue right next to it. You may have a classroom issue this side of it if you left one abutting the cafeteria, but essentially 3 walls of that cafeteria would be exterior walls. So you wouldn't have as much of a sound.
Then you'd have the double door or whatever.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah,
It sounds like it's something that potentially could work to eliminate basement use, if that's the pathway.
If that's-
That's all I was just.
But to the point of this exercise, we ought to be including some funds.
If we're-
We're considering
If we're
relocating
considering
the cafeteria,
relocating, you're spot on.
lots of funds.
Lots of funds, lots of funds.
That's what Bob said, not me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I imagine that's not inexpensive.
no.
It's a heating kitchen, not a cooking kitchen, right?
You say that.
Hmm?
You say that.
In the world we're in today.
But
You're
to
looking at
Brett's, but to
serving
Brett's
stations.
question, but by the time you add a third grade,
It would still say we need those classes.
Is it still a heating function and not a cooking
Cooked
kitchen?
in one location,
And then just heat, we just have heating units.
right, the stuff gets sent
Yep.
from. It's sent from-
Yeah.
Different code.
Yeah.
Exhausts.
Yeah, generally.
Are you guys? Farming sub, are you guys have a subcontractor doing your food? Yeah. Sexa.
They're working on this, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Our main kitchen's here.
And we have no intention of changing that system, no matter what we do with the buildings, correct?
No, I'm just saying, you know, we're not having it in-house.
No.
That's where I was going with it. I just wanted, you know, because for planning for schools, we should. know.
So the question on their end, being the contractor end, do they have a maximum capacity to serve from a different site? Where's their cutoff saying we need to do kitchen?
Well, do they deliver to Gildersleeve now?
Mhm.
So then we know. That we would be under,
Saying
well, we'd be 3 grades now. Yeah.
Gildersleeve has a little better kitchen. I'm not quite sure what they do, but it's still warming, but it's a little.
I can put you in touch with our kitchen consultant.
Yeah.
Throw you a number.
Yeah. I mean,
Some basic equipment.
we
but
keep
it's-
talking about outside too. So Mike, what do you use or yourselves for an outdoor parking lot concept? You know, we have a great one for Gildersleeve because we spent quite a bit of money getting that plan done.
Area.
Conceptual plan with a number on it, although it's, we need to do that. I throw 1.5 million.
You just turn that into cafeteria.
You threw one, sorry, you threw 1.5 million where?
I'm
Not
sorry,
there
it's
yet.
still a sidebar, but it's just the parking lot. Like I said, you know,
Right.
Drainage and everything.
I just went off and Mike mentioned he can put me in contact with his consultant for kitchens, but that kind of goes with everything that really we don't know, like parking.
Yeah.
That's a civil side. That is a civil, looking at the layout, coming up with a concept. Materials, excavation, Chris does that for a living, but it's like, yeah, you gotta look at that because we gotta have a decent number.
Mhm.
And then they gotta look at stormwater permitting if it's needed, how we're gonna direct it. They're gonna go out and look at the design that's on Main Street, the DOT, look at capacity flows and stuff out there. And estimate what we're gonna be moving from that property where.
Well, the good news is
Yeah.
almost the entire parcel is impervious surface, so we're ahead of the game there. And so if you don't
It's
increase,
hard to
and you
increase when it's
decrease,
almost all.
it's hard to increase when almost everything's paved, so.
Yep.
Yeah. We should be okay on that, but you're right, we need a big number, a real number, I should say.
Alright, so we don't know about the cafeteria, but elevator is next on the list.
Yeah, so the elevator is a concern. So, you know, like I said, $150,000 for a standard elevator replacement in an existing chase that is adequate. Is the chase at Brownstone adequate? In other words, the size of the elevator, does it need to increase? If it needs to increase, can we increase the existing chase that's there? Probably not. That forces you outside. Now you're building a new elevator shaft, which you have to dig into the ground. That's where your hydraulics and stuff are. And then, you know, your elevator now is an exterior side. So there's a lot of work.
We don't know whether it's compliant right now.
Can we have somebody look it up?
Yep.
Kone or?
Yeah, I
Thanks,
asked
sir.
them, but they haven't come out yet. So I'm hoping that I can get a couple
Where,
of guys.
remind me again where the elevator is now.
Right near the
Right.
office.
in
door.
the main-
It was so small, you missed it.
I know. I'm trying to remember.
You
where
know,
it
that
was.
classic
When past the nurse's
Yeah.
office, it's. on
Yeah.
It
the
was the
right.
one that said. not-
Because honestly, if we have to make the elevator bigger,
Oh, without all these.
would it be
issues,
less expensive to add a new elevator exterior to the building
That's what.
elsewhere? Is that what we're talking about?
That's what Bob was saying. Sorry.
I couldn't hear the whole thing.
Yeah, he did mention, that might be an option, but I would say at this point, once again, I don't like to speculate too far out. I would say we have an elevator, we look at it. Because again, I don't know if we can eliminate one of the stops if we get rid of the basement. It's currently a 3-stop elevator.
Yep.
So and I don't know the rules on that. Somebody else higher pay grade than me, because with elevators should make that determination. But that is another big one. When Bob's done, I'd say we put it on this list. What
Is
do you
the
guys think?
existing elevator on battery or is it on a generator?
Not complete.
Our elevator's not compliant.
No,
Okay.
it's not the right size for ADA. It doesn't have a battery backup. It's emergency use only if it works. No, yeah, we're kind of in that category
Yeah.
where we can say that, but we're okay. Because we're not doing renovations and updating enough of a percentage where they're gonna say.
Right.
Yeah, we're
That's
doing
where
that, all that.
See, I saw an estimate for $1,000 for a generator. So
Should have taken it.
I think that's one of Ben's Honda. Yeah.
So anyway, so seriously, it's like 12 or 14,000. Oh, it's pretty cheap. I'm thinking generator, not so much on that, and I'm thinking. I'm gonna date myself with this, like the ice storm in 1973 when they had to drain that building down. Remember that? Oh, yeah, right? So they had, to, right? It's always been a fear. I brought an elevator. Before years old. I was going to school there when that happened. So anyway, so I brought the elevator guy in and he looked, and he saw the elevator, and everything else goes. You're up in the $90,000 range. This was back right 2000.
Okay.
So, you know, because he said, you know, you have an elevator in there, all this stuff, power goes out. This stuff has to work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's scary.
So that other one was for just to keep the boilers going, keep the heat going. So that was so, I don't know where that number came from. Once I brought this guy in, I put it in the budget, but I changed it.
No.
But it just changes the game. This is still. And if you did one that went all the way to the basement, doing 3 floors. Be pretty interesting where you. Right, the location of it, unless you did it inside there where which, I mean, tomorrow, we need to get into it. You did it when we first started in that courtyard with the garage, right facing the cafeteria, it's like almost similar to where it is.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not gonna hit 3 floors if you went over to the Middlesex Avenue side. Right,
But yeah, we put a lot of exterior elevators on.
that would make sense.
My thought was, if you brought it to a whole different area.
Right.
When we walked in the front door by the main office, the cubby on the right where the nurse's office is.
Yeah.
In that area, which you put it right outside on the Middlesex Avenue side. That would be a logical place to put it, first floor, second. If you don't have to go to the basement,
Right, if you don't have to pick up the basement.
You could go to the basement from that side.
you could.
Well, you could, but you'd be down a little too far.
It's
Yeah.
$1 million to
Million?
put in.
Or 2-stop exterior.
That's what you had at Valley View when we had the 2-story.
I'm sure that's what we had when we did the exterior.
So,
We're doing we're doing a series of them right now in the old schools in Waterbury, and the three stops are coming in at $2 million. So I'm giving you the numbers right now. Foundation.
Yeah.
It's a steel frame. It's
It's all about the fit.
there's a pit, pumps in the pit.
That doesn't include the generator or it does.
Yeah, with the generator,
With the
yes,
generator.
because now buildings don't have generators.
Would the cost be more if you weren't putting it up the outside of a building and trying to incorporate it into the interior?
So if we try to do the interior, what we're gonna do is we're gonna be cutting the slabs wide, taking the old one out, cutting the slabs wider, building an interior chase.
So that's where all the
Because it's
cost
gotta
comes
be a
back.
rated chase.
Right.
And then we're gonna be bringing in a generator, emergency power.
If we,
So it's not gonna be as much, because we're not building that big steel frame, but it's
and
gonna be,
if the chase isn't big enough now,
if the chase is done.
right, and that, instead of us.
If you're replacing the car. Really,
Right.
hydro.
Well, yeah, everything but chase basically.
Well, the reality is it's nice to know the worst case scenario here so we can plan for it.
I'd rather hear the real numbers.
Oh, those might be the real numbers.
We just priced one out. We just built 2 of them in Waterbury. So that was
Exterior ones, right?
exterior. That's what they cost.
All right, so everybody that drove over the bridge when Brainerd Place was being built,
Mhm.
those nice towers that you
Right,
first saw,
correct.
Yeah.
those were
Yes.
just elevators.
Elevators.
Yeah.
The first 2 towers.
They're still there now.
Everybody's like, wow, that's neat. Was that a
Second
smoke,
building, that is.
that a smokestack? No, that's just the.
If
We need to get through minutes, because I think here's something like,
Well, no, you're right. We got to the elevator. Most of the other stuff in there is just demo. It's bathrooms. They all need to be done. I took the drinking fountains out. We could do that like we talked about. So to get down to the end of this,
Wait, sorry. Hold on, slow down. So
But wait,
in this number, we're looking at 150, maybe $1 million. Below that, you've removed the costs for the locker rooms.
Mhm. I put a
Um,
cost in there just to renovate the locker rooms, but not to completely renovate them with showers and everything else.
gotcha. So you kept that 300,000.
Because we're still gonna use locker rooms, and again, depending on the purpose of the school, it could change the purpose of the locker rooms.
Right.
Don't think it's going to,
And there, yes,
not changing, not showering. And yes, John, those showers were in there,
and then you
community
removed,
showers,
you removed the bathroom renovation costs,
I reduced it.
but kept just making sure that these,
What did we decide on that 917,000 under the two pipe, which we can't switch to now, right? HVAC, sorry. I don't have I have a note here, so it's under the middle of HVAC. Dollar amount 917,000. But we're not gonna switch to that system, correct?
well, I don't know that that question's answered yet.
Well, it is by default. I mean, what's the new steam boiler? I'm not gonna be switching to it. Taking that out, right?
If I put a single boiler in, I need to put at least $150,000 in for the second boiler. Okay, and then that we have to add, which I didn't do here, but see the asterisk is for 25,000, 25,000, 24,000. Those will all need to be replaced. I'm not gonna do that now, but they need to be done. So that has to be added, because now I'm gonna force back into steam with a lot of escalation on those components. A lot.
And we just got what quoted 140 something on that.
47 just for the boiler,
One,
boiler and burner.
But that's gonna be obviously paid now, but we do not have a number on the second boiler, correct, Bob?
No, so two boiler system is $287,000. It takes a little money off for rigging because you're one-stop shopping. You're mobilizing once. Every time you move the machine, you pay extra.
What line item are you on? Sorry.
You don't see you see the 150. So
Okay.
what I did was I said current estimate for one. We're at 147.9 today to replace one boiler. If one is done, I only put one in at 150.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay.
But above that, you see those prices? We're gonna add those with escalation. Because we're staying steam. That was my asterisk is there, was to try to come up with a plan to go to water and see what it was gonna be.
So then we're not going to be repiping the building to a tube pipe, right?
No,
Okay, so that's the 917.
I just took that out,
Okay.
yeah, because that's the 2 million, now 4 million.
Right, up top. Yep.
Yeah, to the pump system.
Yeah.
That's cheaper, right?
But you kept 500 in there.
Yeah.
For replacing pipes.
That wasn't out of the 917.
It is, so where the 917 was on the one you were looking at, you replaced it with 500,000.
Pipe.
Yeah.
An estimate for pipe.
Got it.
You don't.
Black pipe, 500,000 all day.
Building pipe, okay.
This
Which
is
is always
Change that to
expensive.
5.
Yeah.
You changed it to 5.
Okay.
Existing black pipe heating site, and maybe some of that is my sprinkler pipe too.
Mhm.
Because we know some of that. Might be way off there. Mark. Pick some linear feet size. Maybe that's just the pipe. not the whole range.
Hard part is, to shut down and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's pipe good, pipe well. You don't want the multiple mobilizations.
Albert, what's the clean, the duct work? What duct work's that?
So,
Take that out?
yeah, I took that out because there was probably a little bit of ductwork, which was probably some of the rooftop units that have ductwork for ventilation and stuff that you want to keep clean, but I took that out because we're gonna have a whole different system.
So the idea is to have a separate cooling system.
Completely separate cooling.
Would that also, Mike, work for?
just because we're doing steam boilers. Because we're back into a corner.
Yeah, well, yeah, unless there was, because none of the original plan, well, the plan was here to put a pipe system in, which would be still a chiller. Similar here. It's exactly what you're looking at. This is a 3 boiler system with a chiller. We go flip the switch. You start AC for 2 days because everybody gets hot. And then 3 days later, it snows. And I have to tell them, we can't go that way. Can't have it both ways.
Not a lot of people.
That happen every year.
Shoulder seasons. too.
Can I ask another question, but a little unrelated? Based on what you're saying and what you're hearing. We're gonna get to a number, but let's just say that this space says, yeah, let's do these capital improvements, whether that's somewhere on 8-10 million. Based on the scope of the work that we all saw today and then we're building, we see up here. Could that work be done over the summer or with kids present in the building? Or would you need to clear that building out for a year to do the capital improvements that we are now seeing are needed? Including elevators and HVAC and the kids be present, or do we have to empty that building?
Question.
I suppose the answer is gonna be how long you. What you do and when you do it, if you had three, I believe we talked about this in the beginning about one of our conversations at private meetings. All these things would have to be over, I think you said five, and I.
Well, I think I do believe there's a component of this that you really need to do without kids there.
Yeah, and if that's a second
Absolutely.
question, with some of these things that you're
Vacant.
doing, are you starting to mess with hazardous materials or things that?
I mean, that certainly came up during the tour today when you're pointing out areas where there's lead paint and asbestos and, there's something else.
I think when we looked at this as a project, we looked at it as a CIP over the 10 years, and then we threw you as a number, if you did it as a single mobilization with a single bonded project, and it was a lot cheaper to do it as a single. So to empty out that building and do it as a single mobilization is cheaper.
Yeah, it sounds like.
Get more
Down
done.
the swing space.
Whatever number we get to, which we haven't had a little moment, yeah, it would be fun for that. Do it all in one fell swoop, empty the building out, do the work, would be the cheapest way to do it, and hire a GC and get it done, right, to, do that. But you're saying if you did it that way, then you're looking at emptying the building out here.
Yeah, and you get as much done as you can. Obviously, there's incidental stuff that work that you could continue for 2 years or add on. It's not going to impact the students.
Yeah,
Right.
to do that, I'll just remind everybody, we don't have the swing space now to do that. We could move the sixth grade up here. I don't know what we would do with the fifth grade. We'd have to put some portables on Valley View for a year to move second grade to Valley View and fifth grade to Gildersley. So that would be a cost in renting 3 to 5 portable classrooms for a year. To create the swing space for that work to be done too.
How many grades are at Gildersleeve currently?
2, 3, 4.
2, 3, 4. Yeah, and you can fit 4 there.
No.
Yes,
No,
there's 24 classrooms. What do you guys want to say? There is.
Went through it the other day.
Yeah, you
I-
count-
I
If you
counted it.
I thought we did, but we don't.
have room.
It's 5 people, right? Remember we were off.
We need 5 per grade,
Right,
right?
and there's 23.
And we have special education classrooms that
Yeah,
are
count.
utilized for special ed programs. So we need space for those programs.
So,
Got it.
so then how, all right, then how are we gonna do the shift before? That's what
Started on.
Right.
We're gonna do it right.
math
There
isn't
was,
adding up.
no, there was never a point in which there were gonna be 4 grades squeezed into Gildersleeve, that there is not classroom space for that.
No, there was gonna be. It was gonna be grades, pre-K, K1, 2 at Gildersleeve.
Yes.
And grades 3, 4, 5 at Brownstone. For the length of time it took to renovate to new and expand Valley.
Pre-K is 2 classrooms.
Pre-K is only half.
Change in sequence.
But you couldn't fit. The grades, 2, 3, 4, and 5 with. RISE program
And
and
Bridge.
Harbor program and Bridge program for the specialized in-house. Special ed programs in Gildersleeve. That wouldn't fit.
So how many classrooms total do you need? This is, I've asked this from the beginning. I believe it's 6 per grade and everybody balked at that. It sounds like it could even be more. And
It's
if that's
somewhere
the case,
between-
we need to know this in order to create structures that will work for our children. So how many do I need per grade? I believe it's 5 or 6, and I've said that all along, and everybody said, no, Ben, I've been,
Yeah,
5 or
you're
6.
right.
okay.
No one's saying no, it's just that it's
They
not
did, they
just
did.
about the number of grades, it's that there's also classrooms that are utilized for special ed.
You have to add
programs.
those classrooms on.
Yeah.
Yes,
Back in.
to my point.
Yeah.
We need more classrooms, not less. So I'll use Valley View for example. How in the world were we going to use Valley View when it has 13 classrooms in it? And try to fit anything in there. other than 2 grades. You following my, if
Alright,
we need to know
we're
exactly,
getting off
well,
track
no,
here.
it's so
No, that's okay,
important.
but old or new? You said
What's that?
old.
There's no
Existing?
Where? The map I asked, 23, if you count every.
Well, but you
can't
can't
count
count like
spaces.
the art room
Yeah.
and stuff like
Those aren't
that.
class-
I'm just
They-
counting,
they-
well, you can't, no. Not if you're counting them for regular classroom, you can't,
Then that number.
right? I mean, unless you go to art on a cart, music
No, no,
on a cart.
That's fine. But no, Carl, so we have to look at it both ways. If you're going to do that and not count the art rooms and the music room and all that, I'm okay with that. But then that's the same math we're going to use moving forward for every building.
Right. Yeah.
Like I said from the beginning, I
We have-
believe we need a minimum of 6 classrooms per grade. So no matter what we do as a group here, and it may be 7, according to, what you're adding up now. We can't make any decisions without knowing this is the most fundamental thing. We're going to be way over the square footage allotment in order to make this work.
Don't get
If we-
trapped on the extra kids per class. With the additional classes, 1 classroom for the special ed classroom. It's not 1 per grade.
That's what I need. I need a handle on this because. I
Don't
need to
add that
know-
on.
Right, I need to know.
So
per
you might be
building-
good at 5, then you need 3 more
Well, we
classes
need
for the
6,
building,
we need 6
Not per
per grade
class.
automatically.
per building.
We need 6 per grade if we want to maintain. We break 100. For our own, we need the
It
6.
depends on the grade level and it depends on enrollment. I would say that you could average 5 classrooms per grade. Some grades will need 6. The current 4th grade needs 4. It depends on enrollment. So 5 or 6, if you plan for 5 or 6 classroom spaces per grade,
But
that
doesn't-
puts you in the ballpark.
But that doesn't include the art room or the extra
Correct.
activities.
It does
Mind
not
you, That's
include
why if you.
Or your special
6,
needs,
the
or
numbers,
your
right?
Charles.
It's
really the special needs program.
Right.
But I'm saying if you were to
Can't
budget
close
6
our
classrooms per grade for
Right.
every grade, you'd be overbuilt.
Fair, because by the time it's all added up.
Take a photo in here, like there's 2 more over here.
Yeah, because then don't forget, there's also our specialized programs, there's OT, PT, speech and language.
Right.
Small ones, not
There's-
class.
And those are,
Exactly.
And if they need their own classrooms, that's what we need to hear.
Yeah.
Okay, and if they do, we as a group, once again, we need to know how many classrooms per grade to make any decision, whether we're building. Obviously Valley View, it sounds like we just cut it out of the mix altogether tonight. Every time it has no classrooms, essentially, compared to what we're talking about. The only 2 buildings that even come close, and now it sounds like the brownstone's underbuilt.
okay,
It sounds like we don't even have enough classrooms.
all right.
That's what.
I think that's off track, actually. I mean, because we're 3/4 of the way through moving through this biz list. It would be great if we could finish that and check this off our list. Because
Well,
getting into
Let's
it,
put
getting
Dr. Burton's
into,
question to bed. We need to know how many, let's establish that. If we can't even figure out how many classrooms we need per grade for our children in this district, this is day 1 stuff. We have a major problem.
no, I disagree. I
We
disagree.
can't make
I think-
decisions if
what's
we
your
don't
number?
know. what's happening.
What do you have? Have
I
you
believe
studied
from
that?
the-
Have you looked at that?
I
No,
believe
really.
it has to be a minimum of 6.
We ask
classrooms
me
per
a million
grade.
questions. We ask everybody else.
Yes, one.
If you believe that, how do you get to that number?
No problem. If you base it on the enrollment of each that we do now currently, we try to keep.
Which
each
changes
class-
every year. Go ahead.
Yes, correct. And we try to keep classes under 20. That was what, at least when I was on the Board of Ed, maybe they've changed it since then. Using a number of 20 or less. When you break the 100, you need the 6th classroom, which doesn't happen that often. So having said that, you do need these specialty extra classrooms, like Carl pointed out, art, music, special. in the
Those
back.
exist.
No. But hear
In the
me out.
building.
I need to know that number so we can create an environment. Pretend we want to use Valley View.
Mhm.
And Valley View only has 13 classrooms.
Not including those special rooms. We don't count those. Music, art and stuff is an all-purpose room. We don't count them as a
In order
needed
to
classroom.
determine how
That's
many
where
grades
the
we're gonna put
mix
in
up
each
is
grade.
Yeah, there's a little bit of
Yeah.
mix up. Yeah.
Right.
In order to figure out how many grades we're gonna put in a school, we need to know how many classrooms are in that building and what they're going to be utilized for. So if we want to put 4 grades in, we already know we need a minimum of 24 classrooms. If we want to put 3 in, we need a minimum of 18 plus. We have to know this stuff in order to make any decisions on any buildings. I don't want to make the wrong decision. We need to know this.
Okay. but
And it
then
sounds like-
this is a Conversation about whether we could fit 4 grades into Gildersleeve. The answer is no, we can't. but we're also not looking to put 4 grades in a building.
Correct.
We're talking about utilization of
also
swing
started-
space.
right.
And the conversation was, if we go this route and do need to use these 2 buildings as swing space, that we might need to consider the renting or purchasing of some portable classrooms to house students for a temporary period of time.
Based on Dr. Rick's questions.
Yes.
So the
So I
second,
just, I
the
think
second
go
question,
on course.
the second question would be, is there a way to do the renovations? Mike, is there a way to do renovations without triggering shutting it down? And it might be over 5 years like we discussed from the beginning. I guess that would be the question that would have to be asked.
We can do anything that you guys want to do. It all depends on, give us direction, say,
Okay.
and then we'll put a timeline on it.
It gets more expensive.
Yeah.
But so the
So
portable
the
side,
process that we went through last time was that we came to we did a comparative analysis of everything on the table. Then the direction was given, let's look at this scenario. We took a deep dive into that scenario. Not just us, but the Board of Ed did ed specs. This is, all right, if we have one school, I need this many classrooms, I need this many specials, and it comes out to this many square feet. We drew the whole thing up. We passed it around to all of our consultants and our cost estimators, and we came up with a cost and a timeline of construction, and we came up with all of that stuff in that one scenario. So if the direction comes from here to look at this building with 3 grades in it and taking out the basement and taking out the, and we want to build it in a single mobilization, or we want to build it, over time. That's what we would look at. Every scenario has semantics that we just need to chew on.
so based on what we need for our school, are we over on the square footage? Then just our basic necessities. There's no for the classrooms required. If you count the specials and everything per building, is that in itself, in other words, they were giving us about 40,000 square feet for the
Yep.
Gildersleeve for them. Do we need 50 in order to just accommodate? Well, because if Gildersleeve is already full. You follow my logic? We have to work backwards. If we're already full and we're utilizing every square inch of it, how in the world would we then go down to 40,000 and still achieve the same thing? I guess my question would be.
I really have to look at the individual, I have to
Finish
look
the
at
list,
it,
then we're getting.
I have to look at it very
Yeah,
specific.
I don't want to put you right, and I agree. So let's finish this list and then, but you're following what I'm getting at?
Right.
If we're already maxed out
Just to avoid.
in a 50,000 square foot building. And we're now trying to lop off, under that one scenario renovated, we were gonna lop off a whole wing. How is that even achievable? That's what, and that's a sidebar. We'll finish this list, but you following what I'm saying? That's all.
So I'm just trying to pull it back. Where we were when Bob he was kind of mentioning all the plumbing stuff and saying that's pretty much all the numbers are there. So where I was kind of thinking we were gonna end up is at the bottom 3 on the page, which is $1.2 million.
Can I ask you to please scroll down? We were finishing up plumbing. Did we get all the way through plumbing before we moved to safety and code? Oh, you are still in plumbing, that $1 million.
Well, because that's the question I had was the bottom 3 of 1.2 million, and of that 511,000 is asbestos abatement. Is that a solid number, Bob, or
It's their number.
that's their number? Because it's in red. That's why I thought it might have one you had modified.
No, I didn't. I would have said new estimate.
Okay.
Hey, Bob, what did you decide on under plumbing or the building distribution?
The distribution is distribution. It's all your service lines and stuff. So I just used a number that I know a lot of it needs to be replaced. A lot of it you probably won't be able to get to replace it. And so I kind of just put a number that a lot of it's based on age. Your supply lines to your bathrooms, maybe some of your sewer lines. I know that there's sewer lines in an area that you didn't walk that we can't fit people that are definitely need to be done. They're in a walk crawl space that's about 4 feet wide.
Yeah,
With electrical.
These are the gotchas you gotta carry.
Yeah,
for.
yeah.
You gotta.
And you know what, to be perfectly honest with you, I just, you put a value in there and you hope that, well, if I hit the issue, maybe not the number.
Yeah.
Yeah. Depending
The
on how,
allowance.
yeah, depending on how carried away we get when we do it. Yeah, I don't disagree. There should
Because
be.
remember, we're not,
How about the drainage pipe, Bob? What was that?
that's part of that. That's your drainage for your waste. drainage. Not outside. Yeah, water coming in. and Water going up.
So the million was,
We pay both ways in this.
the million is based on,
In domestic.
The current.
separate.
Separated. Yeah.
On the next page, that fire alarm panel, was that what we looked at in the basement?
No,
That was the electrical panel.
fire alarm panel, you didn't make it into the right-hand nurses area.
Okay.
Coming in the front door. In the basement, in the calf, John?
Yeah, that
Electrical.
went through the old original door with the weight that whips up and down.
That is the electrical, what we used to call vault back then. That's the closet for the electricals that come in. That's where the main,
And that's where you gotta snake everything out of, right?
yeah, so that's chase. So the chase on one side where the boilers were, there's a chase on the other side, meaning chase goes up.
Uh-huh.
Right, so most of the pipes go through those chases.
Right.
That's your that's your service coming into the building in that very old space there in the back.
Yep.
So that would have to be, that's part of that renovation of electrical services coming in, and then you work your way through the building with your breaker panels and your wiring and. Trying to find out. So yeah, so good, so. So you see a lot of red, right? So had to include most of that stuff in there.
What was your security, Bob? I don't see a lot.
So my security is nothing, okay, but as of yesterday. I would be comfortable saying. Depending on what we need, if the front entrance of the of the building is sufficient enough to call a man trap. We won't have to do any interior work there. It's a little iffy, very small space, maybe to get two people inside that area that exists, but there is a difference between the front door and the entrance. So there is a man trap, they call it. Security for cameras and the stuff that we looked at, there is a line item in there that's about $110,000. I'd be comfortable adding that now. And that would be for doors and cameras. And when I say doors, that's a camera to the administration. That they can buzz people in, including that software to buzz them. But that's not like building, when you go to the other schools. Well, Gildersleeve, that doesn't happen, so you'd be building something out of it. That's construction versus appliances. $110,000. Good for the appliances to cover the security that we would be looking to monitor. Now. You fence the property in, third grade's there, whole different number to make it more secure for the property itself. So those are things that would be added depending on what we would do for design. If we would need to do that. Or certain areas that don't have fencing, like playground areas and stuff.
Yeah, Gildersleeve did fencing, have that up third grade now?
Yeah, up
Yep.
on the hill.
Yeah.
It's distance from the road, that's. You're right.
Little guys can make it pretty far when they
Yeah.
wanna. Plus, don't
Yeah.
forget the side path though.
They gotta beat Ruben.
What's that?
That's hard to do. They gotta beat Ruben to the street. and That's hard to do. He usually catches him about halfway.
Hey, Bob, you weren't here last week, but we had a bunch of teachers come in and do public comment. And a lot of, we had a Brownstone teacher that was here and she had a whole list of stuff that was just for her personal experience of things that had really just some of the negatives of teaching the building, of the infrastructure. And a lot of the stuff would be covered in the list that she wrote, but just a couple of things that I don't know, like when you talk about upgrading classrooms and stuff, this is what you have in mind, but she talked, just a few things that she mentioned was, she talked about there's some accordion walls that are dividing classrooms. And I don't know if that, like, when you're talking about upgrading classrooms, if that's on your list, and she talked about like the clocks, they're all on different times and how important that is. I don't know if that's your list. I know this is not part of it, but we talked about telephones, there's no cell phones. That doesn't seem like that's part of what they.
Telephones is kind of a system wide, where the town is looking into telephones now, and that the Board of Ed would be part of that. So that would be included in something that we would be doing with the town.
She also mentioned a
Right.
huge lack of storage, which I mean is,
That was Gildersleeve, right?
I mean, it's.
Oh,
All,
yeah,
I mean, Brownstone especially, I mean, I work there, there is,
I think they said the same, that
storage.
was probably both.
Yeah, but I just wasn't sure if like, if any of those
Outlets and
things
bedrooms, too.
are in your mind when you were,
Kind of
or if I can put them in your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Just a-
so
a
that's a
picture
great
of it.
question. So Brett, I just looked at the renovations for the rooms. It doesn't tell me what we're gonna do to them. We don't have any studies on what they want. We don't have any furniture consultants in here. So what I did was I just put the values in there that were there.
Okay.
That's all I can do.
No, no, of
'Cause,
course.
yeah, so,
I
but I
just-
wanted to make sure that the values that were here from 5 years ago
Yeah.
were there. Do I think that those values are accurate? No. I think that once we start designing the classrooms, depending on what need is, I mean, to get to your bare minimum. Maybe we are building some closet areas in the rooms that we would have. Closets, just build them in. You're gonna be doing desks and chairs, depending on where we are. Fixtures, lighting's good. Depending on how we're gonna teach occasionally, what we're gonna be doing with chalkboards versus that's not gonna happen, so they'll be replaced with whiteboard set. So I'm assuming that that's part of your classroom renovations. That adds up pretty quick. So I take, if you looked at how I did the high school, middle school, I just grabbed $250,000 because this is much newer. To do minimum updates instead of 500,000. But that didn't kind of pan out to the way they looked at it at Brownstone. Numbers are a lot less. I included them all.
Thank you.
does that include like upgrade technology? Because like the smart boards, like when you talked about whiteboards, I mean, truly, we don't really use like whiteboards as much. We have.
Which is
smart-
something I said that
we
we could
use
upgrade it
smart
10 years
boards,
ago.
But the smart boards we have are,
No, you're right.
You have
at a
to
minimum
upgrade-
10
You
years
have to
old.
upgrade the
That's what I
smart
mean.
boards
Yeah.
to
so
the smarter smart boards now.
does that include the technology that?
There's no technology component in here.
Okay.
Take that.
So, but
3 years ago.
They use $1,500 a student.
But
So-
$1,500 for technology or just,
it's inclusive.
or
in
that
the-
would be separate from the furniture? 'Cause you said,
separate.
Okay.
And that's about 15 as well. Right.
got it.
What do you get for that?
Smart boards, laptop carts,
Whiteboards.
like boards,
Mhm.
Connectivity.
wireless connectivity, yeah.
Fiber. And then.
Yeah, I was watching the meeting you guys had the other night. Sounds like you have a pretty good
Yeah.
plan on.
Projectors in the.
Yeah, I just wanna-
media center.
I want to make sure we don't
Yep.
get confused with facilities and
So-
building and, what's needed and.
So those two questions are exactly why I say you have to be very careful. Because when I'm embedded in this for 5.5 hours, technology never comes to my eyes.
Right.
I'm looking at this. Really, I mean, you get concerned about doing this way where you miss some really big components and you're cutting away others, and then you don't have the ability to add that later. So I get concerned, when I was doing this, every minute I spent on this, I'm like, how do I feel? What am I missing? And then I come up with stuff and then I'm like, well, do I add it or do I talk about it? Do I throw this sheet off? So there you are. So really, my number is, you come down, it's $8 million. Right?
That's
So
not what I've got based on your numbers tally here. It's just over 10.
you added,
Yeah.
I did.
Oh, yeah.
No, I couldn't add because I'm on a different.
So based on.
So yeah,
Based on. what
so
you
you're over
told us
10.
tonight, it's just over 10
Right.
and it doesn't include
Right.
potentially $1 million to make
So you
it
gotta
all
add
compliant.
almost with escalation, you gotta add almost a couple $1 million to be safe. For 5 years of escalation on those numbers. So, I mean, yeah, you're at 12.
So, and then just curious, with that 12, there is some state reimbursement. And there's some.
Oh, there's
not 51%.
No,
But
no,
some,
done, for
right?
sure.
For sure.
So what would be a safe number? Might assume. Well, obviously, the roof, the HVAC, security,
Right.
We're not gonna hold you to it. We're looking for.
We're
We're all trying our best.
Yeah, right. 35%?
I think lower down.
Lower than that?
25%.
That's what I was gonna guess.
25%.
28%.
Just working,
I
working
thought we
number.
were talking.
It's just the interior, right? We're not talking about like.
No,
I,
we
I
put,
still don't feel comfortable having third graders going across the parking lot or going across the road. Or
We're just looking at the building now,
Just looking
yeah.
at the
a
There's the
playground
building.
that would be
New
appropriate for
playground.
third through fifth
Yeah, I
graders.
think.
Just the building
The
number.
way, the way I would frame, it, right, I mean, is we're looking at how to turn the 1930s. Original high school with an addition that we looked at today that clearly needs work from what was originally designed, but as specs in 1932 into a 2032 elementary school, right? And the way that we just did this through the capital, what I heard was $12 million with 25% reimbursement, but that didn't include parking lot.
no, he did. Parking lot.
1.5 million in the
1.5
parking lot.
He had that in there.
But I don't know if that's even close.
The
I think
elevator,
you're high, but I think you're good.
The elevator is a question.
the kitchen,
The kitchen is a question based on usage
the changing the slate roof to a different kind of
options.
and security.
And play,
Security improvement.
Okay, all right, so
playground.
There's also ADA compliance stuff that I'm not convinced is fully represented in
I
these
agree.
numbers, because we were looking at exterior ramps that were not compliant, I mean, like,
yes,
I think that comes missing.
right, with Mike, my question would be, and the question for the committee would be, okay, you're probably on the town's side, what the town would have to pay, it would be somewhere north of $10 million to do this right in terms of capital. Where you were with the renovate to new was 20 million on the town side, with 20 million from the state. At that $40 million renovate to new, with all of this stuff and more addressed.
Yes.
That's, I think that there's the question, right? 10 million on the town to just like get the really important stuff done. Or 20 million on the town, turning it into 40 million from the state to get it done right.
Well, I come up with 8 million. And I do believe we addressed the ADA ramps with the 400 and something thousand from pointing. And I get you want to make that 8 into 10 because it sounds better, but right now we
My,
have.
my tally is 10, I'm not, I mean.
And it's actually 12, but then we take the state reimbursement out with the inflation, it's 12, and then you take the state, which we are assuming 25 puts us back down to 8, real money to the taxpayers.
She had the 2 million to the HVAC,
I did,
then that brings me to 10.
right, and then you add the 20%, which is 12, then we take away the state reimbursement, puts us back to 8, give or take. And we think it's about that.
We're at 10.
taking 25% back.
Yeah.
I mean, you just wash it out.
So
One wash the
my
other
point
out.
is, now we have a number. We have to do this to 2 more schools. And we're going to figure out where we're going to be. I mean, it's that simple. What other options are there? The name of this the committee and the first selectman at the time sat down and said, you need to do this. That's our charter. Literally, was what he said.
Look, I don't disagree. I'm just trying to,
Right.
the two scenario we asked prior to bringing us, so what would it be to renovate to new? So that was $40 million, 20 on the town, 20 from the state. And then we went down this road and we got to 10 on the town with some level of reimbursement. The only thing I would point out though, is that the capital improvements wouldn't necessitate an ed specs plan that addressed concerns about safety or other things that we have to talk about. These would just be hire a GC and start doing these things. Your plan would necessitate an ed specs plan, right? Like you would need the ed specs plan to get us.
Yeah, I think if you're gonna go for state reimbursement, even on this capital project, you gotta write that.
Yeah, it would have to.
Yeah,
be an ed spec.
yeah.
Okay,
And
that's important. That was good. That was my big question.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
even hearing this, designing a capital improvement plan, we would need an ed specs plan.
Right.
Included as part of our grants to the state to get any.
Correct. And we could sit here and write an ed spec that precluded Gildersleeve, Brownstone, and Valley View tomorrow, and that would
Good to know.
not be the smartest decision as a community. So we need to write an ed spec that allows us to renovate our buildings. I mean, that's what we're charged with doing. I hope we're not going to write an ed spec that prevents us from doing that. And I believe we've met security issues, the air quality issues, the ADA issues that, let's be real. There's more than $1 million in what we discussed tonight, probably in ADA. That didn't get created by neglect, codes change. We need to fix our buildings. We've come up with a solid number. Laurel, do you know the number we came up with for this complex total now?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's, I mean, my number is 10,116,000. Oh, no, because I needed the red line, I need the red copy from the high school, middle school, because I'm not convinced my notes match.
Okay, so my point was, I think up here we took a 6 or 7, that's a solid 6 million off the 13, so you're down to about 7-ish. You know, whatever that number is, and then, so now we know that number up here, we don't have an option, we are going to do that, we have to do that. We now have a ballpark number for the brownstone of approximately 8, 9,
I think it's 10, it's gonna be 10.
Yeah.
I hear what
But
you're
there's gonna be
saying.
reimbursement.
No, I'm talking about with reimbursement. If you escalate this 10 million, which hasn't been escalated,
You would come out to,
and then you save 25% on reimbursement, that takes us back down to 10. I mean, we're not gonna,
so 10 million as 25% is $1,250,000, take off 25% of $1,250,000, correct? You would be closer to 9 million, but okay, fine, call it, I don't, my point is, we'll write these numbers down. We
And all this is without considering bond costs.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, any scenario we do, there's gonna be bonding and there's gonna be interest in, if it's 40 million, 50 million, there's interest on it. If it's a different number, so be it. So now we need to create numbers and probably do walkthroughs at both Gildersleeve and Valley View, because it sounds like we're gonna be running into the same sort of things at each one of these buildings, and we have to make decisions based on what we see and how to overcome this. At the end of the day, there's only a couple paths here. There's maybe 3. There's a hybrid, renovate one building to do some repairs. We're doing repairs up here to the tune of almost the same as the brownstone. We're not gonna shut the building down. We have to come up with these numbers in order to make educated decisions. I need to see Valley View, Gildersleeve, what the breakdown is.
You're not gonna shut this building down, but you gotta understand something. The environmental issue here is already done.
And hopefully, and we did,
That's a
Carl,
big issue.
and just so the public is aware, we did all the environmental that the children could be exposed to. When I was on the Board of Education, that was one of the big things that we pushed for, that our children are safe, those buildings are safe. If we get into certain renovations, we are gonna trigger some things, and I get that, and I respect that. And we put numbers on that to get the job done, but I think this is going well. I think we need to just continue right down. We need to do a walkthrough at whatever school you guys want to do next, Valley View or Gildersleeve. And we need to do the same exact thing in order to come up with these numbers. They're gonna be all here on paper. And keep in mind the high school number that we come up with, they're all, and I know you didn't add it up, but when we do, that one we have to figure out reimbursement, because obviously the roof, the HVAC, anything we're doing up here that associated with that will have reimbursements too. We need to see the real numbers.
All right.
Yeah, I guess I'd agree with that. I agree with everything you said. That scenario envisions us keeping all 3 elementary schools in their current configuration. I mean, clearly, if you're gonna keep the schools the way they are now, figure out capital improvements, and that's what we're gonna do. But I think as soon as you start conceptualizing closing one, then you're going well beyond the scope of just capital improvements. And we
Why
have
did you say that?
Well, I'll give you an example. If the one that you wanted to close was Valley View,
The bathrooms at the Gildersleeve will
you-
have to be in our
right,
number.
you would be well beyond capital.
No,
at
7
bathroom,
bathrooms.
Because you have to put bathrooms in and, you know, make everything there that's not developmentally appropriate for pre-K kids, developmentally appropriate for pre-K kids. Which sightlines never envision, right? Also, you know, that's why I'm saying that specs plan is very important, because in that scenario, then you're envisioning brownstone being a grades 3, 4, 5. At that point, I think an specs plan really has to be written to consider the developmental needs of 3rd graders, because we will immediately start hearing from teachers about pickup and drop off and how we move kids safely through the parking lot and where the cage goes and green space and all of those things. Again,
Or even little things like locker
right,
signs.
will necessitate an ed specs plan that addresses those, that goes way beyond the scope of going to a sightlines report and identifying projects we want to do. That's why I think capital walkthrough and you know what we're doing here makes sense if it's keep all 3 schools and start fixing them because they're falling apart. But as soon as you start envisioning closing any one school, whether it's Valley View, Gildersleeve, or Brownstone, you go past the scope of ed specs of capital to an ed specs plan that is going to be more expensive than simple capital because of the developmental needs and the facilities needs for the kids, whether that's bathrooms with toilets at the appropriate height or pick up, drop off green space for third graders on Main Street.
So currently the brownstone could use a much better configuration. I've drawn it, I've shown it to you, I could show it to everybody else. It's not a hard fix. Same with Gildersleeve for that matter. In our plan, if we choose to keep Gildersleeve, there's a big dollar associated with reconfiguring the parking lot to make it better for our children. Under no scenario is this board trying to create anything that doesn't meet the needs of our children. I am fully aware, and that's why I keep getting into the number of classrooms and I need to know all these details. I'm fully aware that 7 of the classrooms at the new Gildersleeve will need bathrooms installed. Okay, and if that's the case, we'll do it. And it sounds like from the teachers, we've never talked about this, but they want some closets. Doesn't sound like a big deal to me. Let's add closets. So my point is, we can sit here as a group and create something under renovation to nice, not necessarily renovate to new. We can come up with a plan. If we just want to sit here, Dr. Britton, and say that it's $40–50 million, we're wasting our time. This is never, we have to come up with a plan that the taxpayers are going to pass. We've kicked the can another 2 years. I want to explore everything. I want to have all the details so we can all stop speculating and say what things are going to cost. I'll give you an example. At the Board of Selectmen the other night, you mentioned, well, the one option is 48 million. You did not minus everything that we did from the high school, middle school. You didn't subtract what we just did from the brownstone. And we definitely haven't even looked at the Gildersleeve or Valley View. So that number in itself is going to come down. My point is, instead of us guessing, and that's why I want to get an elevator number and whatever other number we asked for tonight, HVAC for the middle school, instead of guessing, we can't guess. This is a big deal. We have to get it right. If our goal is to just say, we're going to frustrate everybody on the renovation end of this to the point where we're just going to build new, well, then we're not going to get anywhere. I'd like to see what it is. We can make some educated, we can have some discussion. We have 2 more schools. We need to create numbers. I don't think that's what we were tasked, at least that's what.
And that's a guess.
And Brian,
What's in front of you is a guess. Unless you go out and get 100 different quotes, you're gonna get to your number. That's a guess.
it's also a guess with the renovate to new.
Oh, it's a
Correct?
better
You're gonna give
educated
a hard
number.
number that doesn't waver?
Well, that's
I'm gonna give you a number that you can go to referendum with.
an engineering guess.
And I can tell you what you're doing here, I've never seen done in my 20 years. And I don't believe it's a good process. And I think you're getting into a really dangerous place, telling people that we can renovate this building for what you think you can renovate it for, because you can't.
Well, the taxpayers,
And I'm sorry I said that out loud.
that's
I
why
don't think
the
That could be
taxpayers,
my end here.
I don't think you can call it renovate as new.
Right. No.
It's a 1933 building or 32 building. To say renovate as new also is not accurate. So, I mean.
at the end of the day, we were given a task here as a group, and I think we've done a great job. I think everybody here has been very respectful. We all get what's going on. The taxpayers did like a whole handful of things. They didn't like the 30-year bond. That was, I think, too much for time frame. They didn't like one school, with that many children on one campus. And they didn't know what was going to happen with the other schools. I think those are all relevant things. We need to create a plan at the end of this, whatever it is, that addresses all those needs. It can't be one complex at the high school because they didn't want that. People were fearful of that many children in one building. I get, they didn't know what they were going to do with the other buildings. We need to address all these issues if we want it to pass. If we don't want it to pass, let's just talk about the $40–50 million, put this thing to referendum, and we'll all just, in 2 years, the schools won't change, nothing will change. Or we can start something new. We can break the cycle. We can look at this and realize, where did we go wrong as a community? We keep bonding to the
Okay.
point where we're broke.
Yeah.
We have
So-
to.
But here's
We are
the thing,
thinking, hold on.
I did update some numbers based on what we talked. Thank you for that. So I updated the numbers to the 2 million for the 4 million for the HVAC and some of those other numbers security wise. The unknowns are still there. I'm at
4 million.
12.
So
Yeah.
now we went.
Because I had left it-
In this meeting,
We went from 2 to 4 based on his HVAC stuff, his.
and we get that number.
We could, but
elevation.
I'm just saying, we'll use that for now. We're at 12 million.
Yep.
Without the. Ben. I can do anything you want.
I know you can. You've done a great job.
Well, here's the thing though. I would like to look at another plan and ask the questions about that plan. Instead of me, I hate to be that guy, but
I don't blame.
we need plans here.
Yeah.
You have a plan for outside, there's no price on it. You have a
Well,
plan.
there is a price. You put a price.
No, I didn't. I have no idea.
There's $1,500,000 up there, so there is a price.
It's a place.
Yeah.
It's not, listen. I've gone through so many prints in my career from architects building civil stuff that you have to develop that. It's an engineering plan. They have to look at so much more. I can say, let's put 1.5 million in there. I have a pretty good concept plan for Gildersleeve. I kind of look at the square footage. I look at the drainage. Maybe it's a little less, maybe it's a little more. All right. This is in my office here without any architectural drawings and any concept stuff. I say put 1.5. Do I think that we're close? Maybe. And some of these numbers that are coming in, we just doubled the HVAC based on current projects that are going on from our engineers. So I get concerned because it's such a moving target today. I mean,
The reality is this can change in a matter of
I
a
want to
week
get to it.
or two.
Yeah, yeah.
Right now with tariffs that you got going on that are impacting aluminum, steel, plywood, electronics. Who knows? How can we even get a number to get
Yeah.
to the public?
So I would assume that to get the full gist of this, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to go do what we did tonight at Brownstone. At Gildersleeve and Valley. One way or the other. Let's go through this. And I believe that instead of coming back up here, tell me if I'm wrong, that we could probably tour both of those buildings in one night.
Maybe on one of the nights when this room is not available.
Yes. Yes.
Great idea, Laura.
Which is the,
Next week.
not next week, we're over.
No, that's not, oh, yeah.
Bob said you thought maybe we could move somewhere else, right? Maybe.
But if we can do the walk.
I don't want to lose a meeting
Right.
for progress where we just placed it. Is the Buck Foreman open?
Because I mean, we're kind of at.
We
a
have to
sta-
tape it, so we have to be somewhere we can.
Right.
Right.
We're at a standstill a little bit until we go look at these other things. So. It is, and tell me, I mean, seriously. You know, I'm not trying to, just if you guys agree, disagree, whatever, I mean. Do you think that we should go look at Gildersleeve Valley?
I think so.
Show of hands on that?
Here's my logic.
I'm gonna take a look.
I mean, I
haven't been.
I'm saying yes, Carl, only because Ben kind of alluded to it. And I've said this many times. I believe the last vote, there were an awful lot of questions that were unanswered. And if we're going to have to present something to the public, we need to be able to say that we have looked at all these schools and we understand, we can say, we saw, they could say, well, this school's fine. No, it's not. We saw it. We saw the bricks need to be repointed. We saw the furnace that needs to be replaced. We've seen this. And I think it gives, we need to put credit back in place with Portland residents, and I think that's part of building the credit. That's my feeling.
No, she did last week with a trusted messenger.
That's
Yeah, I like
exactly.
that. I like
Yes.
that. Yeah.
And that's one of the main reasons I want to put all these numbers to bed. We can't make decisions unless we have information,
No.
whatever that decision is. And it may, like, I forgot what it was alluded to. Maybe it becomes, and I don't see it, somebody's got to show their passions. Maybe the Gildersleeve is a renovate to do once we study the numbers. And we have, obviously up here, I think we've all decided already, it's gonna get the repairs and only the repairs. And then potentially another building same way, but these are, how do you make any of those decisions without all the information?
But I do agree with Carl that we tried doing both at once.
I think we can. They're smaller, they're. I don't think they're gonna be as involved, and maybe I'm wrong now. One floor.
As long as you don't try to put Windows 95 to control your building.
Yeah.
I mean, you got, you
Can't make it up.
can't.
Can't make that up.
I deal with that headache and I used to sit there and say, oh my God.
You can't spend
No, I agree.
$20 bond, 20-year bond and have it run by Windows 95.
Well, we know it's not gonna.
You can't do it. Well,
Yeah.
Battlestar Galactica. There you go.
Yeah, nobody's.
All right, so how about if we tried to do,
So March 27th and April 10th are the dates that here is not available.
correct, but I'm just thinking that
If that's the case, why don't we do one-on-one? I'd just rather have more time in each personally. I felt like we didn't see much tonight. There's probably way more Bob could have showed us and might have spoiled our appetite even more, but my point is, I think. if
all
we-
right, so then what do we do next week?
Especially Gildersleeve, because if that, I don't think, well, I don't want to ever
Could
speculate.
we see one of the schools next week?
I think we
Because
should.
I think what you're gonna do is if you don't, you're really gonna have nothing to do with going back and forth and bicker on the stuff next week. Without,
Isn't that fun?
No,
You're gonna have to get your number.
you're asking the question, I'm gonna give you a true answer, no.
I'm
So-
gonna ask if we're doing one of the schools next week, could we do it at 5 o'clock? It's the third Thursday, so several of us have third Thursday conflicts at 7.
And I'm out of town next week. I was hoping to call into a meeting, but don't stop on my account. Go.
And the nice thing with doing it at 5 o'clock, let's light out, and that's was one of the other things I was thinking, but if you think you want a week per building,
Because
but then we're not gonna come back here, I don't.
Because Gildersleeve's wet, I'd like to see the back, why it's light out.
Oh, it's a great time to see it.
Every time of year.
You got it. Or your
Wear your boots.
But I feel
I'm
like
just gonna.
it helps
say,
all of us
don't
make
walk
it.
over there.
There's-
Mike. I know you
I
want
asked
to,
question.
we're
Yeah,
gonna
report.
pull you out.
Yeah, fine. We don't have to continue. No.
So we could do a 5 o'clock walkthrough on the 20th
I'm good.
at Gildersleeve.
Is it Gildersleeve or Valley View?
That's 20%.
I'm out, I'd rather do Valley View. I saw Gildersleeve recently. And I'm out.
Especially if that's kind of guessing.
You're out. So let's go to Valley View
Yeah.
first,
Painfully
next
get
week,
here, no?
and that will be the meeting. Okay, we're not gonna go back here.
Right, that's fine.
Afterwards.
And then the other date we'll do, and you can make. Gildersleeve.
No, 27, I've been through Gildersleeve.
He's been, so he doesn't, so we do Gildersleeve on the 27th.
And you're good.
So
Okay.
But at some point, we should,
But I did the.
Dr. Britton brought up the ed specs, if it's going to impact what we're doing. We have never talked about it since we've been the committee. So I don't know how it would impact it, or you deal with it all the time. We should know.
Well, so the process wise, if the Board of if Dr. Britton, with the assistance of Fryer and the Board of Education are gonna write an specs that the Board of Ed would eventually have to vote on. We're not gonna kind of like write that if it's not for a specific plan.
Okay.
So process wise, this committee needs to make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Selectmen need to know that they're on board with that before the Board of Education is gonna write that plan and vote on it.
Yeah, there's another part of the ed specs plan that we did this before. Ed specs plan has to lay out a timeline, how many students, including demographic studies, it's a huge report. I mean, it's online if you want to take a look at it. I'm very proud of it. It's hundreds of pages long and gets into the nitty gritty detail that these guys need in terms of how many sinks you need in the bath and how many bathrooms, like it's right down to
It's quantifiable.
quantifiable, and it also lays out if we need to close a building, where our kids gonna go, or we have to rent portable classrooms, we'll have a lot of moving parts in it. And ultimately, this committee, and I'll tell you, this is the power of the Board of Education. The Board of Education has to look at that, and at least a majority say that's what we believe is good for teaching and learning in Portland. If the Board of Ed won't support that, if they don't pass the ed specs plan, we're not moving forward because we must have an ed specs plan approved by the Board of Education to submit as part of our grant application to get any funding from the state back. So part of our recommendation has to be mindful that we need to not only convince the Board of Selectmen that this is cost effective or reasonable for the town's buildings, but the Board of Education, we have to convince them that this is good for teaching in town, not gonna put children at risk or otherwise be bad for them. Because if the board doesn't buy it, we're dead in the water.
That's accurate.
27th is gonna.
Have you read it?
That works. for
It's
me.
it's online, right there on the webpage. I left everything up there from us. It's hundreds of, 60-page documents with all kinds of links and other things that the state requires us to include before they give us a nickel.
Yeah, and I think if we do good thought in this, I'm less worried about Board of Education approving at the end because they've already on their last
If you need that.
at third grade.
I saw that I
On Main
share
Street.
that concern.
No, the Board of Ed
because-
did not have that in the last.
Board of Ed
The Board of Ed wrote a, that spec voted on it. That was a pre-K through 5th grade school.
So one value was being built. Where was third grade?
That was as a transitional space for a year and
Correct.
a half, or 2
So
years.
my
So
point
that's
is, it,
different.
it is and isn't. If it's safe for one day, it's safe for 1 year. And if I, that was one of my specific, well, it was one of my specific questions to Dr. Britton. And you guys were pushing that. Was there anything unsafe? And the answer was no. So I want to create a plan that works, and I'm gonna go by what he said then, and third grade at Main Street worked then, if that was the scenario we.
Yes, and I will just say one other thing.
Yep.
We approved that, did all that before we knew there was a $40 million Nordic Spa going in, which I just heard the other night. I'm gonna remind this committee. That Nordic Spa is projecting to bring in somewhere between 100,000 and 150,000 people a year. to visit that. I just heard that number 2 nights ago and I almost fell off my chair. Knowing that now, I don't know that the board would have been all that good with it.
Well, the reality is,
Unless we're gonna put fencing around that building and
you know what closed on that road since then?
I don't know the details. I just heard.
So my point, what did you give planning and zoning your concerns at the time? Because this was all on their approval.
Didn't reach my desk.
Okay, so at the end of the day, we're now gonna have Mercedes. Beautiful SUVs with sensors, and we don't have big trucks. 2 of the businesses down there that have the big trucks coming down that road are now not using it. So I love that you're paying attention. I love that you're concerned, and I think you are genuinely concerned. You and I have talked off the record. And I really, really appreciate that from you. It shows how much you care. I think it's less of a concern. I am so happy that we've now decreased the truck traffic on that road. And yes, there will be a little more car traffic. I'm not worried about that at all. There's laws that need to be followed, and the Brainerd Place, same thing. Main Street's gonna have more traffic. I'm not nervous about that either. But at the end of the day, those are great things, but that is nothing's changed that would put our children in more danger at all. There's 100% less on that side of the street.
And I'll just say, I don't know that a lot of people share that opinion. And that's something we're gonna have to figure over here. And ultimately, the Board of Ed, if we write an ed specs plan to move third grade into Millstone, is gonna take a position.
If the Board of Education, I'll give you an example. If we go down the road that third grade on Main Street is the sticking point, then we're probably never getting anything past a referendum. If those people on the elected people on that board choose to go that route, so be it. If that's keep in mind, that's if all these numbers bear out and we end up with that path. We don't know where we're going, but if that is the case, I find that hard to believe that any one of them will get reelected. So if that's the path. So
All right, let's get off of that. So next week, okay, sounds good to everybody.
5
March
o'clock.
20th, 5 o'clock, walk through at Valley View. That's it. Not gonna come back here. Left, we'll go after the other stuff. Set a meeting. March 27th. That is the night that we can't be in here. We are gonna do a walk through at Gildersleeve at 5 p.m. Bob, is that okay to happen then?
Yeah.
That shouldn't be a problem. Bob Charles, it shouldn't be an issue, right?
No, we're there. That's no issue. We gonna move to another location for that? Like Buck Foreman to have a meeting after, or we're just doing a lot?
I think well, if you guys would like to do that, we can.
We just have to be at a place that we can take,
Yeah,
that would be the only place.
and Chris can't be, you say you can't be at that one.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be able to make the
But
meeting.
he said he's already been, that's why.
No, I meant if I'm deliberated after. That was to me, if you wanted to.
So do you guys, how do you feel about that? I mean, do you want to come back here? You can't come back here afterwards. Ben can't come back here afterwards.
Oh, on the 20th, I can't, but on the 27th,
You can, or if we have a place to go.
yeah, if we had a room to go to, we could.
I would say we increase the tour time and then the waiters can make the call. That would be my sense.
I feel like this meeting is stretching everyone a little bit
It
beyond
is,
their
it's long,
limits.
it's long.
And
Doubling up.
I would say we walk through and then kind of be able
I
to.
agree. We've been doing this for 4 hours now.
Right.
I think this is a
Yeah.
lot.
So
Do the 2 walkthroughs and then have a follow-up, the
a follow-up meeting
On
on
the-
the 2 walk. Okay, so so we're talking 3 meetings. Right?
yeah, so it would bring you to what, like April 3rd?
April 3rd.
I won't be at that meeting on the 3rd. So
Me
someone
neither.
else look at the good notes.
I don't even,
What's going on with things? Is that the?
My Cub Scouts, 5 of my Cub
Okay.
Scouts are crossing over to Boy Scouts.
Oh.
Thank you. 6 years in the making.
All right, so. Tell me if I'm wrong here.
Nine.
I'm seeing. March 20th, 5 PM, walkthrough at Valley View. No meeting following here, is that correct? March 27th, 5 PM, walkthrough Gildersleeve. Follow meeting or no?
I say
Follow
no.
up meeting or
I'd say
no?
no.
No, because it's dragging out too long.
Yep.
All right, so then April 3rd.
Mhm.
What time? April 3rd, I would say
6,
six.
usual time.
6, pretty good.
We okay with that? We're gonna try to run that. Try to keep this within, couple hours or maybe no more than 3.
Is that gonna be here?
April 3rd, yes,
April 3rd, can we be here?
yes, it's the 10th that we can't.
Okay.
But we can.
And we are gonna talk about
The 2
discussion on the 2 walkthroughs at Valley View.
Yeah, I've seen it, but I
I knew like, well, the thing I like with that is
Yeah.
you, like tonight, you answer
Yeah.
a lot of questions that come up.
sure. Yeah, no, I'm here for you guys.
If we can ask questions, I believe you're an asset to be there.
Yep.
If I can't ask questions, I don't want you there.
Right.
Thanks for that. Additional meeting date is set. Any public comment? None? Oh my God. Say no, no,
That's it.
okay. Is there anybody? Public comment? Okay.
Not in.
Motion to adjourn.
Motioned.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Sorry,